Welcome to the regular meeting of the Washington Township Board of Trustees, September 18th, 2019. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, B, roll call.
Boshiers is here. Jacobson? Here. Nicely?
Here.
O'Leary?
Here.
Babinski?
Here.
Kopp?
Here.
And Praviti?
Here.
All present. You see before you the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions?
Move approval?
Support.
Motion by Kathy, supported by Stan. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the consent agenda. You're being asked to approve the accounts payable for September 18th and approve the minutes of the Board of Trustee meeting for September 4th.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Stan, supported by Abby. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is legal counsel. Bob?
I do have one item. I received about an hour ago a letter from the attorney for TS Washington Building LLC, which is generally known as Total Soccer, and it is a threat to sue letter that I had not seen before, and it is a letter that we're going to have to turn over to our township insurance carrier. The upshot of the letter, according to Washington Building's attorney, is that there have been defamatory statements that have been allegedly made by township board member on social media, and this letter is addressed to Mr. O'Leary, and it is referenced as a cease and desist letter. It essentially is asking Dan to send this letter to the board member, and obviously I represent all 7 of you, but I also represent the board as a whole. The person that they allege to have made the statement is Mr. Praviti, and Sam will certainly get a copy of this letter. I presume if Dan hasn't given it to him already, he will tonight. They're requesting a retraction, and that the retraction be in several different formats, which I don't need to get into. But we have to get this to our insurance carrier. They're alleging not only defamation, but allegations of interference with business relationship, given the fact that we have an ongoing deal with Total Soccer to buy that property for $1.5 million. So, you know, there are some substantial allegations. I have no idea whether it's factually accurate or not. When the carrier gets it, they will either assign counsel to represent the township, or they'll give you a letter indicating that they've received it, and they'll give you a letter regarding coverage. Parenthetically, I'll tell you, I am on the appointed counsel list for your insurance carrier and represent them in several lawsuits throughout the state, more than several. And even though I'm on that list, I would automatically disqualify myself from this case because I represent 7 of you and it involves 1 of you. So the long and the short is Kathy's going to have to get this to your carrier tomorrow morning, and Dan should give a copy of this letter to Sam, and we'll see what the carrier's response is.
Let's all behave ourselves. I don't think there's any sense in discussing it at this point. All right. Next item is new business. Award the contract for the 30-mile road water main extension. Miguel, can you come up here and enlighten us?
Sure. Thank you. We received a total of 17 bids about a week and a half ago for the 30-mile road water main extension. This will extend the water main along the south side of 30 from Mound to Campground, where it will connect to a piece that the White Oaks development is installing from Campground to Kildare, and it'll basically complete a loop down 30-mile road and to Mound, increasing pressures, taking care of water age issues there, and allowing us to continue to extend and serve the west side of the township. Like I said, we got 17 bids, which was awesome. The low bidder was Deponio Contracting. in a bid amount of $841,917. As noted in your packet, the range was from that low all the way up to a high of $1.4 million and some change. But we had a pretty good packet of bidders, in the low 900,000. So very, very good responses. Work checked into DePonio's references, and we've actually done as a company work with them recently in Ferndale, and everyone else that we contacted spoke very highly of them, and we're confident they can do the project. So we're looking to award that contract to them with our standard 10% contingency for the Water and Sewer Committee to administer in case there are any changes during construction. And that brings the total construction cost to $926,108.70.
And they're still on pace, Mike, to get everything done relatively quickly?
Yeah, we're waiting. We have a couple permits just from the state that we're waiting on here in the next couple weeks before we get them mobilized, but it would be built this year with final restoration occurring in the spring. It's along 30 miles, it's an unpaved road. Most of it, there is some tree clearing through some of the lots, but most of it's a pretty easy straight shot down 30. There is a section across the White Oaks frontage that we actually have to go under a wetland. That's one of the permits that we're waiting on. And we'll be directionally drilling some plastic water main in that location to avoid any impact to the wetlands.
Do you know if there's any big issues with drainings of wells or anything during that time?
There's no dewatering necessary because this pipe is so shallow. So no, we'll be putting water in, but we won't be affecting anybody's existing wells there. And again, no one, as always, no one that fronts on this water main is required to connect, but the option is there. The second phase of White Oaks will actually connect into this main as well as it loops through their site. So again, this is just another phase in the process of getting water over to that side and improving our reliability of the system.
I've had several residents come to me regarding some large oak trees that are very old, and are you able to address those? I asked him, go ahead and contact the township with your concerns, and they're very concerned about some trees along there that have fixed it for a long, long time.
So yeah, just so you know, I've gotten the same calls, and I haven't been able to call everybody back because there's a lot of people concerned about it. The fellows have gone out there, they've looked at the situation with the contractor, they are planning on boring when they can, and there's some trees they can save. Won't be able to save everything, but they're planning to do that, and I apologize to those homeowners who I haven't been able to get a hold of yet. But that is the plan, that to the extent they can, they will bore under the trees and save them.
And those specific trees are actually not in this project that we're looking at. Those are in the ones that White Oaks will be constructing east of Campground. Right. There are some larger trees in our section as well. There's one particular property owner that has about 670 feet of frontage that we are trying our best to work with him to route it through there, and he has some trees that he really, really wants to keep, and we're doing our best. We're still trying to find out that solution. It might change our alignment a little bit. And actually through the White Oaks property, we're putting the pipe in the future right away pretty far off the road through a clear area, so we'll be really no trees at all through that property.
I appreciate you addressing their concerns.
Trying our best.
Both of you.
Now, this particular item is exclusive of the engineering contract. We have to do that separately?
Let's do the award for the work first, then talk about the engineering side,
Okay.
please. I'll make the motion to award the contract to DePonio in the amount of $841,917 with a 10% contingency to be managed by the Water and Sewer Committee. As always, any changes will be shared with the board on a regular basis by the committee. This would adjust the total construction cost to a not to exceed of $926,108.70. As always, too, we make sure that we have all the final insurance, the formal agreement, bonding, and all the other contractual requirements in place before we finalized.
Support.
Motion by Kathy, supported by Abby. Questions? Roll call.
Boshiers is a yes. Jacobson?
Yes.
Nicely?
Yes.
Praviti?
Yes.
Babinski?
Yes.
Kopp?
Yes.
And O'Leary.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item is the engineering contract associated with this.
I can help Mike out a little bit.
Please.
So basically what happens when we have a contract like this, we do have a contract with Giffords, and there's certain rates that are put against each of the tasks that have to be done. So in the memo that you have in front of you from Giffords, what I'm going to ask you to do is basically approve the construction staking, the material testing, and the as-built. And if I just did my math right, it comes to $20,672.93. As you know, the contract, or the township actually hired an inspector this year. We'd like to use our inspector on this job. And right now, we've been working with Mike trying to develop what the right mix is of township time compared to Giffords' time. So we'll come back to you at a later date for what that inspection cost would be for the project. So I'm going to ask you to approve their construction services in the amount of $20,672.93 for construction staking, testing, and as-built.
Support.
Motion by Kathy, supported by Stan, and, there will be some admin that they have to do, but there may be some inspection on certain things we may call them in on, and that's why we'll come up with a different number for you to approve later. We do have a very qualified person that we've hired in addition to our other staff, and I think going forward, you're going to see more of this, so that person's more than paying for themselves.
I would expect that we should be, I'm looking at Rich. I think we'll be back here in the next meeting with that, how we want
Yeah.
to split that up. But we don't want to slow down, we want to go.
Yep. So that was a motion by
Me,
you,
support-
supported by Stan.
Correct.
Questions? Roll call?
Boshiers is a yes. Babinski?
Yes.
Praviti?
Yes.
Kopp?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes.
Nicely?
Yes.
And Jacobson? Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks, everybody.
Next item is the water and wastewater cost of study results. Every year, we get increases from the county and DPW, our Great Lakes Water Authority, for our water and our sewer rates, and then most years, we hire a consultant to tell us what that should mean in terms of what we charge our customers. Last year, I think we kind of winged it and went on our own based on prior reports that person had given us, because remember that UFS gives us, for both water and sewer, a 5-year recommendation called the rate track. And last year, we just used year 2 of the rate track and came out fine. But this year, we went through the study, in fact, the whole cost of service study, to look at how costs should be allocated between fixed and variable and all that sort of stuff, and what the rate should be given the raises we've been getting. So long and short, it's based on operating income levels and what's appropriate for this business to have as operating income, cash levels, and debt coverage ratio levels. And in order to achieve the appropriate levels of all 3 of those, they make a recommendation. And they do it as a 5-year rate track based on an outlook for capital expenditures and so on. Sewer Committee's gone through this and is in agreement, but the long and short is it's recommending yet another year of 0 increase for the water costs, so that, I don't know how many years that puts us basically frozen, maybe 4. And a 4.9% increase for sewer, which is 1% lower than the rate track was recommending last year. So in fact, their entire rate track for the 5-year period is 4.9% versus 5.9% for the entire rate track in the last report that they did. So kind of pulling things together, getting some uncertainty out of the numbers, and we're able to control these increases so much better than 5, 6, 7 years ago when we were getting 9, 10, 11% increases on both water and sewer. 20%, I think, was the peak in terms of what we passed through to the customer. And this time around, I'm asking you, and the Sewer Committee is asking you, go with 0% and 4.9% in the rate schedule as laid out before you, which takes a portion of the variable and converts it into fixed. We are actually still well below the fixed level that cost of service study tells us we should be in terms of the mix of fixed versus variable. But they're not recommending we make that jump all at once. They're recommending we make it over the 5-year rate track. So they've shifted from the variable to the fixed. And for people who are not here part of the year, they say, oh, geez, that hurts me. It's true, but you're just like police, just like fire, just like every other government services. You pay for the availability of the service. Just because you went to Florida for 3 weeks doesn't mean the pipe downstream that we had to install for you went away. We still have to pay for that pipe. So we are well below what Detroit is charging us in terms of fixed costs, and well below what the cost of service study is charging us, and they're telling us to shift somewhat from variable to fixed. That's the gist of the recommendation. Any questions from the board?
This is October 1st, correct?
Yeah, we've been doing these changes October 1st, which puts us on a little bit of a lag. We get through the summer before it hits us, but, that's probably fine.
So I think in your packet, I made the recommendation based on the chart, and I thought we were going to go with that small decrease of the 0.1%. Do you want to go to 0, or did you want to go to the 0.1?
No, it's 0.
Okay.
And approve the fee schedule as outlined in the package. Is that I guess that's a motion by me?
Yep.
Any support?
I'll support it.
Motion by me, supported by Gary. Questions? Roll call?
O'Leary?
Yes.
Kopp?
Yes.
Nicely?
Yes.
Praviti?
Yes.
Jacobson? Yes. Babinski?
Yes.
Boshiers is a yes.
Motion carries. And for those that don't understand, that storage facility was a game changer. A lot of people criticized it at the time, but that was a game changer. Okay. Next item on the agenda is correspondence. Kathy?
I don't have it in your packet, but I emailed it to you last week. It was a letter from Mr. Siebert's firm saying that they were going to, that they've been approached by Bruce Township as far as any type of representation when it came to the Parks and Rec issue, and he also asked to be recused from that because of any conflict. So I already sent that to you, and I did not put that in your packet.
Okay. Any questions on that? Next item is comments from audience. Anyone have anything they want to say? Ruth?
Hi, Ruth Heidebrecht, 354 Salem Drive South, Romeo, Michigan. I am also a Washington resident and a Village Romeo resident. I pay taxes in both areas. I'm here for two subjects. The first one, I would like Mr. O'Leary to consider the fact that since we do pay Washington taxes, that we be referred to Washington instead of South Romeo. I know that's just semantics, but North Washington would be nice. But we do. We pay taxes in both, and I grew up in Washington Township. I moved 15 years ago to Washington Township in the Village of Romeo. So I guess my first request would be that you not refer to us as South Romeo, that you consider us possibly North Washington.
Fair.
So my second subject is I also come here as the founder of the Met TV, which has been a subject for the supervisor in many of the meetings. And I am one of those 3 people that do watch your meetings. So I watch every one of them. And our largest viewers are Washington Township. And the most recent activity that has been going on in all of our communities, all 3 of our communities, right now, is the Parks and Rec. And we feel that if our community was educated more, and I know you face the same problems, not enough people watch the meetings and not enough people show up at the meetings. And we feel if they were more representative, then maybe we would have more information shared. So what I would like to ask is that you respectfully allow the Met TV to come in and cover your meetings, just your trustee meetings, and like we do with all the other meetings in the area. We are a tri-count community. Even if our shared services are dwindling, we still are 3 communities. And we would like to keep people informed. So with respect, I'd like to let you guys know that we would like to start covering your meetings starting in your October meeting on Wednesday.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
And incidentally, so the public knows, anyone can come and tape our meetings. There's no restriction. We don't
Sure.
restrict anybody. We're good with it. More information out there is better.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Anyone else like to speak?
Gave me the squeaky chair.
Darn right I did.
Good evening. Thanks again for the opportunity to speak to you. I guess what I'm going to say tonight is quite relevant after what we just heard from Mr. Siebert. I do not feel it is ethical to use township funds to support a yes or no vote on the community center proposal. I do feel it is ethical to use township funds to distribute factual information on this issue to all voters. Included should be the benefits and costs to the township citizens. I encourage this for a couple of reasons. One being that all voters are entitled to all the facts prior to the vote. Additionally, and unfortunately, board member Mr. Praviti administers a personal Facebook page using the township logo as its identification. This gives voters a false impression that this is an official township Facebook site. There are many negative, non-supportive comments on this Facebook page regarding the community center proposal. Mr. Praviti makes no attempt or effort to make right the inaccurate and incorrect information. In fact, Mr. Praviti only encourages those to vote that have posted negative comments on his personal Facebook page. Those making negative, non-supportive comments on his Facebook page regarding this proposal include a member of Mr. Praviti's family who criticizes Supervisor O'Leary for the condition of the WBRW building and continues that if Mr. O'Leary cannot take care of that building, we should not support the community center. Mr. Praviti, you sit on the same board and you are just as responsible for that building. Mr. Praviti, you were part of a unanimous vote to purchase this facility at this value. The resolution stated the vote was to acquire this facility and included an actual contract and terms. Now you falsely claim this vote was to allow the township supervisor to just explore the issue. You continually misrepresent the value of this complex. And this is really great. You voted to deny all township voters the opportunity to vote on this issue. You falsely claim that this millage is the first of 3 millages. You were sitting at the board table when it was stated that this one millage, along with the available cash and future land sales, will fund, other than a swimming pool, all expenditures. You fraudulently claim this building does not have an occupancy permit because the building does not have fire suppression, when in fact the office and fitness rooms are sprinkled. The field areas are not required to be sprinkled because they don't have any grandstands. You have been deceptive in representing the residency fee that could be, you state, as high as $300, when the vote on this issue was based on a resident fee of $50. You were in attendance at this meeting. You heard all of this, and let you incessantly make inaccurate, incorrect, and erroneous statements. Stop with the fake news. At the August 21st, 2019 meeting, you not only sought to amend the township agenda to include the business of Romeo officials, you wanted their business addressed prior to you even addressing your own township agenda.
Sue, if you could wrap it up in 30.
No, but other people have had longer, so I'm going to request longer.
Board.
Mr. Praviti, I'm sorry.
Board.
Many times, other people have stood here for a lot longer than 3 minutes. Mr. Praviti, I am confused as to whom you represent while sitting at this board table. Your actions to continue to give the false impression that you sit on this board to represent the citizens of Washington Township. It is evident your focus is to represent the desires and wants of those that do not live in our township. And now it appears that you have placed this township in legal jeopardy by libeling and slandering a township business and interfering with that business's ability to prosper successfully. I find these issues with you, Mr. Previti, frustrating and disappointing because a couple of years ago I stood at this podium and asked why Mr. Previti was allowed to falsely represent that his personal Facebook page was the official township Facebook page. I even suggested at that time my concern was that this might cause the township legal issues. And here we are. Is this letter foiable?
Sue, I got to ask you to, and
Okay.
out of respect for the people that are behind
Well,
you. Everybody will get 5 minutes tonight. How's that for a compromise?
Well, I do have one more request, and that is that, Mr. Previti, you cease and desist using your personal Facebook page to mislead the public by having it associated with the official township logo. Do an honorable thing for a change and resign from this board.
Marilyn? I'll give you 5.5. How's that?
Oh, yeah, I don't need that. Excuse me? Can I talk? All right, I just wanted to mention that there's a new Facebook page, and it's run by Carol Marshall and Cindy Knight. At first, it was Gary Kopp, and it has the Washington Township logo on it. Secondly, I just wanted to know if someone can answer a question to me as to why Total Sports still is running on a temporary certificate of occupancy since January of 2018.
Be happy to address it
Thank you.
after public comment, since this is your time. Anyone else have a public comment? Oh, I won't forget. I won't forget.
I have about 3 items I'd like to address. First of all, we had a nice man in my complex who wandered away and passed away this past weekend. He had grown up in foster homes, was an orphan, and I was so pleased today because he was a World War II veteran that about 100 residents came to his funeral at Stony Creek Church. The other thing I would like to mention, and Fred Miller will be here tomorrow. The mobile clerk will be here in the morning from 11:30 to 2 p.m. at the Township Hall. It's great for senior citizens. Anything that you need to do in Mount Clemens, you can do there. Thirdly, since a Facebook page was brought up, I'd like to bring up the No Barn Bailout Facebook. I caution all residents, when you don't know who the administrator is of that page, it's wise not to comment on it. I follow it, but I don't comment. When I see a Facebook page like that where the administrator does not reveal themselves, they're hiding in secrecy, then there is an agenda problem. May I give the rest of my time back to Sue Heyer if she has anything to say?
No, I can't transfer time back.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize.
Marilyn, can I ask you, or Pam, can I ask you, Pam?
Pam.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get my name or anything. Pam Keller, a resident of the Enclave Apartments. Kathy knows my address.
Anyone else have anything to say? Ma'am? Name, rank, and serial number, please.
Hi. You have to excuse me. I'd like to ask for a little bit more time because I actually am playing catch-up with all this Total Sports Fitness.
I'll give you 5.5 since I went over on Sue too for 5.5.
Okay. So my name is Peggy DeVos. I've lived in the township for 15 years.
Peggy, can you spell your last name for me, please?
D-E, capital V as in Victor, O-S.
B or D?
D as in David.
Thank you. D-E.
V as in Victor, O-S.
Thank you.
It has come to my attention the concerns that I have, and I understand the Facebook page. But quick thing on that, I'm actually thankful for that because I can see both sides of the story. Not just the negative, but also the positives. So I just want to put that out there. My concern, try to cut it down, is that for at least for the last 10 years, we have wanted to create a larger community center and a splash pad, but we've never had the money. And then all of a sudden now, we're saying that we have $11.5 million that we want to use to create these larger facilities. But my concern is that we had an estimate that was done for tax reasons, I understand, to give a tax cut to Total Sports Fitness, and the appraisal appraised the building for $6 million and the land for $400,000. So my question for the board is, was that to do some sort of tax evasion so they didn't have to pay on the property, or is that the actual cost for the actual building and the land at this time? My second question is that it was done as a industrial land and right currently is an agricultural land. The price value on an sorry, can't say it. Agricultural land is a lot cheaper than an industrial land. My concern that I have is that we talk about renting it out, but as it currently stands, we can only rent it out for $2.50 per square foot, and as an industrial, you know, we can rent it out for $5. Dan has mentioned that we are unable to build out a facility for less than, maybe I'm wrong, but $40 million, but I find it hard to believe that if on the building permit it says that Total Sports was built for $5 million, that in less than 2 years it would cost 110% more to build the same facility. I am also concerned with the township already making a purchase agreement and putting up $100,000 already for the purchase of this property without prior consent of the township residents. My other concern is that according to Craig's Detroit Business dated April 13th, there was an interview done and published in their records that was saying that we were looking to not only create a community center, but to create an all-sports facility in that area. Part of the confusion and angerment that's going on in this township right now is that most of the people in this township do not realize, it seems like the agenda for the board is to change this from agricultural to an industrial area and to make this a large multi-sports complex instead of more of a rural community gathering place. And I think that's more of what the township wants. This building, to me, does not seem like it fits the actual requirements and needs of our residents. In a sense, it's like, I can't, metaphorically, you know, if I need to buy a horse, I'm not going to buy the whole barn with and the stables and everything just because I need a horse. It doesn't fit our needs, and we can actually build a structure for less of a cost than it would take than to buy this property. I ask that the township goes out and gets 3 reputable quotes from bidders to actually build a community center that would fit our needs better. The last thing that I would like to request is that the concerns be heard by all the citizens that are pro and for against this. When you were elected, and I actually elected you, you promised me that you would keep this township rural. And your plans right now is to do the opposite. You have put in a lot of houses, and you are turning this small agricultural land into a massive, massive complex community. That's not what I signed up for when I moved here. And I hope you take into consideration that and why you were elected to this board in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Well stated. Anyone else have any comments? Okay. So I'm going to address some of those questions, all of them, actually, and more. Let me get up here and see if I can make technology work. Maybe you'll be waiting a while.
That's right. Jeez, so fighting.
Okay, good.
It's a technology issue. The supervisor is very challenged in many ways. Hold on a second. Oh, slide. Hey. It's warm up here.
So while I'm sitting here pretending to know what I'm doing with the technology, I do want to address Peggy's concern about the rural environment. I understand entirely.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Sorry, guys. This working?
Thank you.
Better? I do want to address Peggy's concern about the rural environment. You know, I think all of us, when we moved here, or if you were born here, would love to keep the place the way it was when you chose to live here, right? And we have done what we can within the law to do that, but we have to respect people's rights. Farmers have a right to sell their land, developers have a right to buy it, and as long as they live within the master plan and do it according to the master plan, there's nothing we can do to stop them. Now, you hear a lot about, oh, the master plan has been changed, it's been changed. It has not, other than the establishment of this recreation district that we're talking about.
Dan, can you talk
You guys
louder?
speak into the
Am I not getting heard here?
You were
How
singing
about now?
karaoke before, do it again.
I'm so concerned about making this work. Can you, oh, no, it's still on me. It's still my technical issue. Bear with me. You know, I don't want to get into politics, but I do have a page that explains this, and maybe I should put it on the township page so that people don't have to go to my political page to read this, but there's a whole thing I've written up that explains how planning and zoning works, what our rights are, and what we're not allowed to do. There are actually people that think that we build subdivisions. We don't build anything unless it's a township asset. Those are private sector people that are choosing to buy land, farmers are selling it, and they look at the master plan says, hey, that's zoned for commercial, or it's master plan for commercial, and they build commercial. Or they say, hey, it's master plan for residential, and they build residential. And that is their right, legally. That's a right. That's not something we can stop. When crazy things happen and you see like 5 auto stores in this town, and you say, man, how many people have bad cars in this town? That's their right. If for some ungodly reason these auto parts companies like to be located across from each other, I don't understand the business model, but it's their right to do it. We have, in fact, it's illegal for us to prevent it, okay? There's so many things that people don't understand about planning and zoning. They think we have more power than we do. What we do try to do is encourage good development, a little more space than you see to the south, probably a lot less than you see in Bruce, but Bruce is an extraordinarily rural environment with no water and no sewer, right? So we do our best, and someday maybe I'll take the politics out of that write-up and I'll put it on the township page so people can see it, so you don't have to go to my political page, because I understand that might be objectionable to people. It really is. We've done a good job. In fact, there are places in this township where we have reduced density where we could. We're doing our best, but the law is the law, and people have a right to build as long as the master plan allows for it. So, you know, don't go to my website. I can't say it in a government meeting, but I will put it on the township website, a cleaned up version of it, so you can see. And then please come back in a future meeting and ask questions, because it's an important issue. And, you know, I share a lot of your feelings about it. I'd love to see the way it was in 2003 when I moved here. That's what I moved here for. Some people, you know, decided to do other things, and they have a right, you know. So I'm going to do my best to do this with...
We also choose what our land, how we designate it. That's our choice, too.
It is. Again, the master plan is a document. Hey guys, do me a favor. Don't debate amongst each other. It's better to yell at me. But let's talk about that at a future meeting. Maybe another light agenda. We'll have just a discussion of the public of the master plan and why things are the way they are.
because it's an important issue, and a lot of people don't understand. If I see one more person post something like, hey, who's the contractor the township uses to build subdivisions, I'm going to die. It's like, what's happened to our school system if people think the township builds subdivisions? We don't have anything to do with that. We have to approve it if it's according with the master plan. We don't spend a dime on it. That's not what government does, you know. But anyway, I'm hoping this works. I have a keyboard problem and I have a mouse problem, so if I have difficulties, I apologize. There's been a lot of stuff on social media, and you know, the unfortunate letter tonight, quite frankly, it just makes me concerned about what I'm seeing. We have a choice before us on November 5th. You get to choose whether you have a community center at Total Soccer or not. That's your choice. And I want to go into a lot of things I'm hearing on social media because it is wrong that there's so much misinformation out there. And I'm going to correct it tonight if people will listen. And I'm asking you at home, pay attention. This is going to be boring as hell. I am that way. I'll ramble on. You have to pay attention. If you're going to choose no or choose yes, do it based on information, not lies and false stuff that's being spread out there. I'm going to show you what's really going on. You know, you've seen this picture in the hallway. Our planner drew it up as a conceptual site plan for the acreage between 30 and 31, and that's the site we are talking about for this purchase of a community center, as opposed to building one. And Peggy raised some issues, and they're good issues, and I want to make sure I explain them. You see that green area at the bottom? We own that. It says future recreation-oriented businesses. That's township land. To the left of that is land owned by Contrast Mechanical, who intends to put an industrial facility in there, and they have that right under the master plan. Above that is a white building that is conceptual at this point, but we are in negotiations with a firm that wants to put anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million square feet of, I'll just call it office space. It's a light industrial office space in that spot. And in fact, the planner and I met today with somebody else who also wants to do something on this area. We have a lot of interest in this area. This area is designed under the master plan to be our moneymaker. Residents don't generate money for us, guys. We don't like when houses go up, financially speaking. I mean, we're fine with people moving in and all that. We welcome them, we love them. But it doesn't do us any good financially, okay? Businesses help the financial health of your community so that you don't bear as much in taxes going forward. And this area was designed to be that area where businesses come in our master plan. So that business is being worked on. It's been worked on for 3 years. We think we're going to land it, but there's no guarantees. But we are in deep discussions. And then just to the right of that, you see the Total Soccer building and its parking lot and a whole bunch of fields. Today, they're all soccer fields, but we put in some baseball diamonds and other things. At any rate, we developed this concept plan to kind of illustrate to people what we're talking about in terms of a community center. I'm not going to ask you to look at the picture for long, but I want you to be aware of where this is. 30 and M53 on land that's adjacent to land we already own, and that has a huge strategic value for us because in our master plan, this is our moneymaker. Everywhere else in town, for the most part, isn't. Okay, which means the taxes fall on you. We've got 26 Mile, we've got Van Dyke, and we've got 32 Mile, and that's it. Other than that, the taxes fall on the people. This is a moneymaker where we can put industrial and recreational and other such businesses and generate money to help you moderate your taxes over the next 30, 40, 50 years. So what are we buying? I've gone through this about a month ago, but there's been so much misinformation and so many people trying to catch up with what's happening. So I'm going to give a really quick overview of what we're doing. We are buying out the Total Soccer property, not the business, the property. 80 acres that currently has 24 soccer fields on it. They're 117,700 square foot building, which has a full-size indoor soccer field, very unusual for soccer buildings to have a full size. 5 volleyball courts, 4 spaces for exercise rooms, fitness rooms, that sort of thing. A lounge, all their equipment, 1 home, 5 storage buildings, large barns and that sort of thing, and several selected contracts. Why the contracts? Because there's 2 large, or 1 large, 1 small contract that's in place. It's already in place. We're going to honor that contract. What are we buying it for? Not to use it as a soccer facility. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to go nuts. We're not asking seniors to play soccer. We're not asking people to be in a soccer facility. We're trying to convert what is currently a soccer facility to a community center where people of all ages and abilities, because we have some ideas on the disabled, can come and enjoy sports and activities of all kinds. Sports and activities. Not soccer, necessarily. Not that we're excluding it. We're trying to facilitate the attraction of a major industrial product in town. That's the white building I referred to. And we're trying not to buy it, or we are not buying it to operate a soccer business, in case you didn't hear me say that. So that's what we're doing. Converting it to a community center and also addressing this industrial issue that will help us for a long time to come. What are the specific modifications planned? When the board went through this in 3 or 4 meetings back in August and September, these were the things we said that were the most important things. The senior activity center, the outdoor tennis, the outdoor and indoor pickleball, the outdoor sand volleyball, the walking paths, the splash pad, the playscape. We're going to take the indoor 5 volleyball courts and we're going to convert them to all-purpose courts, 2 basketball courts, 5 volleyball courts, or 8 pickleball courts, depending on what we're doing on any given night. That's what's going inside. We're also going to put in a drop-in game room so that kids can come in, play ping pong, play pool, whatever, and stay out of trouble. I think we all kind of hoped for that. Batting cages, baseball diamonds, so we'll convert some of the fields to baseball diamonds. And then over time, whatever the community wants. 10 years from now, someone may say, I want to build an amphitheater. Well, that's the community's choice. Once you own the asset, you get to choose through your elected officials what you do with it, right? But those things, Paul, I'll get you in a second, those things are the things that were in the mind of the board at the time this was approved, and we had swags on value for each of those things, and that's what drove the 0.25 millage that we're asking for. Paul?
Existing contracts for soccer revenue comes to the township.
Exactly.
And, thank you, and
Sorry, that's me.
Sorry. And you said convert the interior. Would that mean getting rid of the full-size soccer field?
Not at this point. We anticipate keeping the full-size soccer field. Why? Because, there's some community things that it could be beneficial to it. Well, one, the exercise, right? You got the soccer. The baseball team practices there. You got people that play lacrosse there. You can see the football team practicing there. So there's a lot of kids' stuff that could be done, but there's also adult leagues. And there's graduations and other things that could be done there that are community-oriented. Peggy?
I had a question. On top of the $11.5 million, how much more money is actually owed on top of that we're going to have to pay? For example, I know that the COO is not there yet, so that's $1 million. I know that the equipment rental fee is another $4,500.
Peggy, if I could, I address that in this, and you are misinformed. But I'll get to your information. If I don't answer it well, stop me at the end. I promise. Sure.
So for the transformation of the building to include the senior activity center, do you have drawings already done for that?
No, we're trying to minimize. The question was for the TV audience whether or not we have drawings for all this stuff. We're trying to hold off on any detailed stuff until we know whether the voters buy in. If they don't buy in, there's no sense in spending money on it.
I think as a voter, I would like to know where that stuff would come from if you're planning on keeping a soccer field, where the senior activity center could go.
Yeah, there's a large area for the senior activity center right next to the volleyball, and there's a couple of walls we've been thinking about knocking down to make it larger. And there's 3 rooms, a fitness room, a spin room, and I think he's using the other one as storage that we won't need, that we intend to turn into the kids' game room, maybe an activity room, that kind of thing. So we've got some options, but we don't want to spend the money on it, and it's more than enough room. I mean, 117,000 square feet, even if you take out the soccer, it's more than enough room to accomplish the activity stuff we want to do, as long as we don't build a pool. And we just don't want to get into that until we know if the voters want to spend the money. That's the key.
Dan?
Hang on, guys.
Dan, but some of the, what we call senior activities, we have multiple rooms. We have rooms here. Some of those things will stay. Some of the more passive activities probably will stay here. If you have the right staff, the staff will schedule everything that we have. That's things that we've always done. We have passive activities for our seniors, and I use that term very loosely. But we have wood carvers, we have cards, we have a crochet group, we have a rug hooking group, we have things like that, but we also have Zumba that comes up here. We have different exercise classes that happen downstairs. It all depends on how you schedule and what's there. But as a township, there is a need for additional office space also. So right now, behind the dividers and over here, that's our quote-unquote senior activity center. Our hope, and we've been looking at this for the last couple of years, is how do we make it so that this north end of the building, which is your your building, your water and sewer, the supervisor's office, planning and zoning, has some room to operate and think and breathe. So part of this eventually would be to reconfigure, but we do have activity rooms here that may stay for some of the more passive activities.
But the goal is to avoid the cost of expanding this building to either side by making better use of this, by shifting some of the activities to the new building. So we're just trying to make the best use of our space. If you guys could hold off on your questions till I get through it, because it's a lot of stuff, I promise I'll answer your questions. I will stay here all night if I have to answer your questions, just because so many of the questions are in the presentation. So that's what the board wanted to do, okay? And that's what the board was recommending to you, and that's what the millage is based on. The millage was set to pay for the facility, to operate Parks and Rec like we always have, and to do the additional stuff necessary to make this happen, put in the sand volleyball and that sort of thing. That millage rate was set to do this. How is it going to be paid for? 20-year bond. It'll cover the purchase and the initial improvements. Additional improvements on that list will be funded from surpluses, land sales, and cash available. We just closed a $1.5 million land sale last week. I can't tell you who I'm talking to now, but a lot of money being talked about for a lot of acreage that we intend to sell for the purposes of this recreational district that somebody is very interested in, at prices higher, by the way, than the price everyone says is not real. So we got some land sales coming. We've got surpluses in our budget, including the coming additional state revenue sharing that's coming as a result of the census that we'll have in a year or so. And we have cash available on hand. Why? Because we've been saving our money. We've been saving our money for this purpose, and we've got that cash available. We've managed our money well. The bond and the overall Park and Rec operations will be paid for by a 1 mil tax. It's currently at 0.72 after Headley and all that. And then there's also an assumed $50 fee, not $300, as been falsely stated by Sam. $50 was assumed in the economics from only 1,000 homes, which is about, we have what, 9,500 in this town, something like that? That's the rate. We use a conservative ratio on how many homes will actually participate. And we use $50. Now that fee doesn't necessarily have to be an out-of-pocket $50 fee. You currently, when you participate in Parks and Rec today, you have your taxes and you pay fees. It happens today with existing Park and Rec. And all we're saying is in some form or another, there's a $50 surcharge that using families will have to pay, whether it's an increased cost of a dance class or whether it's an actual $50 annual fee or if it's a monthly fee or a per-use fee. All we're saying is, based on the economics, we need an additional $50 to make it work, and we'll find it. By the way, some of that finding may not come from you. I had another great meeting today with someone who's going to help us with naming rights. Are more taxes and fees coming? Sam Praviti does not speak for this board. I just want to make that clear. When he goes around telling people that in addition to this 0.25 or 0.28 increase, there's going to be another millage increase for some of those things I listed there, and another one for the pool. The only truth he's saying is that the board publicly stated that we may have an additional millage increase in the future if the public wants a pool, if they do. I don't know what's going on with the high school yet. Let's let it play out.
No, you said in phase 2 and 3 there's a potential of additional millages.
You're wrong.
But your presentation changes from meeting to meeting, so that's fine. You want to play politics, we'll play it.
No, Sam, we're going to get to the truth tonight.
And you also passed out the paper on August 12th. You said we have nothing to offer, so we're starting out the fees at 50, and gradually they'll go up to 300 like Macomb Township.
I'm going to address that too, because that's also
then
something.
Don't say I'm lying, because that's what you said at the meeting.
Sam, stop.
Okay.
I'm going to clarify all that so everyone understands the truth.
Okay.
Put your hat on. Let's be clear about something. $50 is what we're looking for to make the economics work. That may come from multiple sources, okay? But we're being told by Mr. Praviti that there's going to be a tax increase to get those things we listed, not new stuff other than that stuff. That's not true. You know why? You know why my presentation changes? Because we had 4 board meetings and the board made decisions. Decisions that Mr. Providi must not have paid attention to.
After we voted on it?
No, at the meetings. We discussed $50 a person.
Yeah,
and we
that
did
would gradually grow to 300.
And we did say, let's be clear about this. We did say, if we had more to offer, like a pool, you could charge a bigger annual fee. It was brought up by somebody that $300 a year is what they charge in Macomb. But we said, we don't have a pool, so we're not going to do that. If we do have something more to offer and want to raise our fees, we would lower the taxes. In fact, Mr. Providi left out when he was using scare tactics to scare you away from voting for this. He was being dishonest.
Yeah, I'm
he knew the
scaring
truth.
people.
He was being dishonest.
I tell everyone to vote November 5th. I want everyone to vote.
At any rate.
Because you're trying to get a low voter turnout.
Audience, he and I can yell at each other because it's a business meeting. I'm asking you guys not to yell at him or me, please. At any rate, the board was clear. 1 millage increase unless there's a pool. 6 members got it. And if we have a pool, you know, we might be able to get the private sector to eat a good chunk of it. So we'll see about even that millage increase. As for added fees, you ever hear goldfish? As for added fees, the $300 was raised at the meeting by COP because he was talking about what Macomb charges. We didn't say we were going to charge $300, and yet I saw Mr. Providi post on Facebook that these fees could go up as much as $300. Again, I was at the same meeting he was. There's 6 board members and a lawyer who know what was actually discussed. 1 board member has been spreading misinformation to scare the public away from this millage. The claims were false and meant to deceive, let's be clear. The items that you see here, those items can be paid with the 0.25 mils we're asking for, with no additional increases, period. 6 members of your board, who you should trust by now after everything we've done in this community, opined to that. Is it a barn? It's silly to have to address this, but that's what they keep calling it, and it's a fun name. It's a 117,000 square foot block and steel structure. The ICC estimates that the current construction cost of that type of structure is over $200 a square foot. We're buying it for $64 a square foot. $200 to build it or $64 to buy it? That's not even building a Macomb Township style building. That's just taking the existing building and replicating it somewhere else. That's no barn, that's block and steel. It's an impressive structure. Many residents have been to that building to play sports, and they know that it's not a barn. Again, how you vote is your business. But let's vote on the right information. I'm still waiting for the critics to offer to build that building somewhere else for $64 a square. Is it overpriced? Fact. Land values in that area are easily $50,000 an acre. I'll prove that in a second. This is not a residential area. This is industrial and commercial under the master plan. If you assign $50,000 an acre to the 80 acres, you're left with enough money to call the building $64 a square foot. That's a pretty low and ridiculously low price that you cannot build at. Okay. Fact. People at home, you can't build this building for $64. We're buying it for $64. At the end, if you don't mind, Peg. Again, ICC has it at $201 a square foot. The second offer that the social media critics talk about all the time is apparently $1 million more, and they keep saying, let the private sector take it for $1 million more. What does that tell you? It tells you we negotiated a good deal, if it's true what they're saying. We negotiated $1 million less. Sounds like we have a good deal. Again, we're still waiting for the offer to build it cheaper by the critics. Here's the comps. For the last few years in that area, remember, this is a sewer district that your board established to be served by the sewer plant. These are the sales in that district. You see the first one, 0.91 acres. That is a home that if you take the home value out, the land went for it averages up to $236 an acre. Then you have 3 acres that the township sold to that same owner, $50,000 an acre he paid for that. Then you have 56 acres sold on the west side of west side of M53 in that district right across from this. If you take the buildings out, it went for almost $51,000 an acre. Then you have Vista Springs, which went for, without buildings, $224,000 an acre. Now that's on Van Dyke, so you got to temper that. But that's a fact in this district, a quarter mile away or half a mile away. Again, 30 Mile, 10 more acres, $47,000 an acre. Again, another Vista Springs, 5 acres, $154,000 an acre. Another Vista Springs parcel, 2 acres, $168,000 an acre. I left off 2 outliers. One was a contaminated property that went for $11,000 an acre, and the other one was a business that went for $714,000 an acre. I don't know what the heck was happening there, so I left those off. That was $714,000. But I keep hearing this land won't go for $50,000 an acre. We've sold land, we, the township, for $50,000 an acre in that district. The facts are the facts. How does it compare to other centers? So you got what, 3 around here? You got us, supposedly, Shelby, Sterling, and Macomb. We got 80 acres. Shelby has 8. Sterling's being built on existing property with no development necessary. Macomb's at 37 acres. Again, it was built on existing property with no development costs. Square feet, 117,000 for us, 25,000 for the one Shelby just bought, an old building. 98,000 for what they're building in Sterling Heights, 90,000 for what they have in Macomb. What was the initial cost? Well, we got to pay 11.5, and those things that are on the list, the things that are on the list I showed you, will be paid for with $6 million. So we're putting in $17,500 total cost. You know what Shelby did for 25,000 square feet? They're putting in with some add-ons, and their add-ons, by the way, are not amenities. They still have to pay for that. They're fixing their sewer and they're fixing their parking lot for $1.5 million. So they're at $3.8 million for 25,000 square feet. Ours is at $149 a square foot. If you say the land has zero value, just pretend the land is worth nothing instead of the $50,000 that it is worth. Just put all the purchase price, all the additional costs onto the building. We're paying $149 a square, ignoring land value and saying it's zero. Shelby, ignoring land value, which hurts us way more than them because they're only 8 acres, is $150. We're better than they are. Sterling, they're building new at $22 million for 98,000 square feet. That's $224 a square. $224 versus $148. I don't need a rocket scientist to tell me which one's cheaper. And the Macomb Center was built 15 years ago in 2 phases. They didn't have the land costs allocated to it. They didn't have to worry about development and pipe and all that because it was already there for the township center. But in 15 years, that cost is now $40 million if you inflate it for construction costs. By the way, over the last couple of years, they've doubled for roads and that sort of thing. Doubled. So their building to build that style building is $444 a square foot. We're doing everything, including the land. If you assign zero value to the land, ours is $148. Everyone who says this is an overpriced asset is either ignorant or lying to you. They're either ignorant or they're lying to you, and they have reasons, and we'll go into some of that. Understand the comparisons. Again, I'm assuming the value of the land is zero, which is ridiculous, and of course, since we have the most land, that assumption hurts us the most, okay? Shelby's an older building. Shelby's engineer has stated that that building, if they built it today, would be $250 a square foot. Again, we're paying $148 to buy 1-year-old or 2-year-old building. Shelby's added costs for repairs, not for amenities, so their costs are going to go higher because they got to put the amenities in. And their thing is just like ours. They got 1 basketball court. We're going to have 2. They got some rooms, no pool. Sterling, again, multi-purpose court, seminar room. They got a pretty nice layout there, no pool. And then the Macomb Center, of course, has pool, but keep in mind that $40 million doesn't have development costs and it doesn't have land costs. Keep in mind. So we're even more cheap by comparison. Let's talk about the appraisal, because I see this a lot on Facebook. And the reason I'm a little animated, look, people can vote how they want. That's okay. You might not think this is worth it. That's all right. You might think Parks and Rec is not a good government function. I've had people say that to me. We have somebody here today who doesn't believe in Park and Rec. That's okay. What's happening right now is, with the help of others, there's lies being spread to kill this millage for the sake of some people with some vested financial interests and political interests. And that's not acceptable, to hurt the people of your community so that your buddies can financially benefit and so that your politics can benefit. And they've gone as far as to accuse me and the board of a scam and of taking money under the table to make this deal happen. So you at home understand, I have a right to be angry. I put my life at risk for this community in that FBI investigation, and 23 people plus are going to jail because of it. And I don't like people like Sam and Jeff and others running around calling this a scam and questioning the integrity of my board. It's unacceptable. Let's talk about the appraisal that everyone says was $6.4 million and we're paying $11.5, and oh my God, must be money being exchanged. The appraisal was actually not $6.4 million. The appraisal was $9.1 million. The appraisal was done as a buyer's appraisal. No offense to Mr. McAnally. We're not stupid. We put that appraisal together. We put our assumptions together into it, and the appraiser went ahead and used those assumptions. And we thought those assumptions were pretty much on our side, but that's what you do when you're buying and negotiating, isn't it? Just like he did with me. And he put things out in front of me that were him trying to buy and negotiate with us. And that's just the way negotiations work. But we have someone out there quoting $6.4 million and showing one page of the appraisal and not the addendum that shows the revised value of the land once we showed them the new comps. And that's dishonest. Let's be clear. It's not a mistake. It's dishonest. They say, well, they owe us $1 million. Totally false. Totally untrue. They don't owe us a damn dime. They're saying that because there's a sewer district that's been established and we have to run pipe, and every piece of land in that district is going to have to pay their share of that pipe. They say, well, that's $400,000 or $500,000 with tap fees, and that's owed. They owe that to the township, and they're not paying it, which, again, leads to a false implication that we cut a deal to kind of unbury them on something they owed us. Look, every parcel of land in that district is going to be saddled with that appraisal. And you know what that means? Every land sale I quoted you on those comps, every one of them, is subject to their share of that, which means you can't then deduct it from the value. That's double dipping. It's already deducted by the market from the value. So when all those buyers bought the land on the west side of Van Dyke and we sold the land next to us and all that, those values already deducted the tap fees and the sewer SAD. It's already out of there. Or they wouldn't have bought it. Again, dishonesty is the rule of the day on social media. So, in all honesty, the assessment said, hey, there's these additional costs. It was in the assessing report. It was a buyer's assessing report. Wake up. The assessing report assumed that we were going to have to demo the 11,000 square feet that is consisted in the five outbuildings and the home. And that we were going to have to pay $90,000. Well, that would be true if Chris was owning. He doesn't have a use for it. We have a use for those. We're going to keep those. We're not only aren't we going to spend the $90,000 demo, there's a value to those buildings to us. We're actually going to make one of them an office. It's a swing of $240,000. We actually thought this through, and I'm going to explain how the process worked in a little bit. But when we came up with our number, we actually thought it through as a board, believe it or not. We do that. The appraisal put no value on the equipment, easily $100,000, no value on the contracts we were inheriting. They're a minimum of 0.6, and they could go as high as $2 million. We about split the baby when we came up with our appraisal because there's some uncertainty there. I think we took a third of the extension. We assumed no goodwill for the context he's developed over time. And it assumed that we are going to have to build an internal road at $360,000, part of what total owes us, which they don't owe us. And so the people that told you that are lying to you, and you should hold them accountable. They don't have to build that road until phase 2, if it ever happens. It's not happening. That's the approval under which they were approved by the Planning Commission. The appraisal continued. The appraiser, because this is a difficult value to property to value. This is a very good appraiser, by the way. It's a difficult property to value because it's a community center. how many community centers in southeastern Michigan do you have as your comps, right? So they took a look at it and they said, well, if we look at it as an industrial center, it has this value. But then you have to ding the value a little bit because it's not tall enough to be an industrial building. So they called it an industrial center and then dinged its value for not being one. And we're not even going to use it as an industrial building, right? But I understand why they did it. It's a difficult property value, and they're just trying to come up with a ballpark for us that makes sense. They also looked at it as a soccer business. Well, guess what? We're not running it as a soccer business. But they said, you know, here's a soccer business, and look at their business. They had a little trouble up in the first year. Of course they did. They opened up late because of construction delays. That cost them not only the first part of the season, it cost them the whole season because people signed up for the whole season up front. So they didn't just lose those winter months. They lost a lot in that first year. And when you base your valuation based on that, guess what? You get a low valuation. Not like he hasn't operated for 2 years in total, and it's growing his business and would be even better next year and the year after. Again, we're not buying his business. I'm just trying to help you understand some of the nonsense that's being spread. No value was given in this appraisal to the cancellation of the right of first refusal, a major issue. I know what that's worth because I know what the unicorn buyer was willing to pay for it if it had to. This discussion on the shortcomings of the appraisals was had by the entire board in closed session, which is our legal right to do. And we looked at it and we said, this is a hard property to value. It is not industrial. We're not running a soccer business. We're building a community center. And because there's no other building in the community that meets that need, no other building, and I'm going to challenge people if they want to talk about Sherman's. We'll talk about Sherman's in a minute. There's no other building in the community that meets that need. So you really have two choices. Buy this building or build. And if those are your two choices, we got this done at an incredible bargain basement rate. But the board looked at that and said, based on that, we understand where the appraiser's going, we understand the shortcomings, we understand it's not the appraiser's fault. We as a board, including Sam, voted to proceed with an $11.5 million deal. For all the reasons I laid out, and when you take all the things I added up there, all the little shortcomings in the deal, your price range, because of the renewal of the contracts is a question mark, your price range is anywhere from $11 million to $12.5. We chose $11.5. Pretty damn reasonable, and everyone on TV knows I'm right, except the politicians and the people with the vested financial interest. So the board, including Sam, made the decision to proceed, and proceed based on a buy versus build basis, the only basis upon which you can value this property, because there is no other property to buy used in this town that would meet our needs. I wasn't instructed, as Mr. Providi stated online, to explore the deal. He didn't vote for that. He had a contract in front of him with terms, including the $11.5 million number. We reviewed that contract as a board page by page, and I was instructed in a unanimous vote by the board to go for that contract and get it done. Why? Because they were smart enough to know it was the right deal to do. I don't know what happened after the fact. So an appraisal is a theoretical value. For those of you that don't do business, and look, I'm not going to brag on myself. I've been in mergers and acquisitions a good chunk of my career. I've bought multiple hundreds of millions of dollars of stuff in my career. I know a little bit about buying and selling, okay? An appraisal is a theoretical value. What matters when you have no other building in your township, because it has to be in your township, that meets the need, the only thing that matters is what does it cost to buy that one building versus what does it cost to build it on your own. And if the buy is cheaper, you buy it. And we compare very favorably, as I've just proven to you. This is an opinion. You've got facts to rely on and to share with your friends. I hope you'll do it. What about Sherman? Someone said 28 Mile and Van Dyke. Sherman's a 55-year-old building. It's my age. Look how crappy I look. Can you imagine a 2-year-old building in total or a 55-year-old building at Sherman's? It's got 22 acres, but it's largely floodplain. You can't use those acres. You can't build on them. You can't put soccer fields and baseball diamonds. It's not usable for a community purpose. We're getting 80 acres that are usable. And buying Sherman's would not secure the $100 million unicorn project. You heard me say it. $100 million industrial project that people are jeopardizing because they're jeopardizing this deal. And I'm not saying we've got the deal in hand, but we're doing a damn good job fighting for it. People are jeopardizing that deal both for politics and for financial interests. There's people out there for financial interests. We'll go into that a little bit. Has less square feet than this building, lower building heights, not going to work for the sports we're trying to play. And it's segmented. It's a horribly segmented building. It was an industrial manufacturing site. Think of what that means for the Phase 1 environmental we'll have to do to acquire that. And it's not in our recreation district. So no, Sherman's is not an option. So what have you learned in my rant so far? You've learned that the land value is $50,000 an acre. I'm currently negotiating with two parties at a higher rate. You've learned that the building at the rest of the price is only $64 a square foot and can't be repeated by any of the critics, any of the people saying we should do this someplace else. It cannot be done at $64 a square foot. Even assigning the entire cost of the building and nothing to the land, we are favorable to the other three centers in our county. This is not a barn. There are no new taxes and no hidden fees beyond the $50 and the 0.25 mils. And no, we are not buying a business. And we are not buying a soccer facility. It is a building and land to be used and converted to, repurposed to a community center. Now, everyone has a right to opinion, right? I am not here to tell you how to vote. I'm here to tell you how to vote with information and not lies. That's my job, to get you the information. How you use it, you may support this. Great, go vote yes. You may not support it, as my friend over here does, because he doesn't believe the government belongs in Parks and Rec. And he's willing to say anything, true or untrue, because that's his belief. Well, just argue your belief. If you don't believe the government should be in Parks and Rec, argue that. But don't make up stories that offend and slander my board because you have a political objective. Don't do it, because I'm going to call you on it. If you don't believe in Parks and Rec, don't vote for it. 30% of our population doesn't vote for Parks and Rec every time the millage comes up. That's okay. That's their opinion. They have a right. I don't agree with them. I think it's good for the community. But they have a right. Some people don't want to see a tax increase for any reason. I get it. We are overtaxed as a nation. Not here in Washington in terms of what we do to you. In fact, 3 of our villages, we charge you under what you authorize us to do. That's how we roll. But it's not that way at the county and the state and the federal. We understand you're tax beleaguered. I get it. If you want to take that out on this project and lose the amenity, that's your choice. You have that right. Do it with information and facts. Do it on that basis, not on lies. And if you don't think it's the right deal, that's okay too. Some people say you need more. You need a pool. Some people say, I won't vote for it without a pool. Well, that's your choice. Some people say it's just too much. Maybe a smaller building would make more sense. Okay, but again, remember the cost issue. Remember the cost issue. The less than honest things that are going on, the people who want you to have their opinion, and they're willing to spend what they can and lie and use some ignorant people to spread their bull, are the people who want the unicorn deal in a different town and are doing anything to scuttle this deal so that they get it. They're not going to get it, but they're trying. There's other people who do want this property. That's a fact. You know, if the social media numbers are true, they're willing to pay more, who knows? But there are other people who, once they found out we bought it, they said, hey, we would have liked to buy that, and that's a good price. And they offered more than we are offering. So they have a vested interest in this deal not going through. And there's people with political alliances, and there's this group that wants to run next time, most of them the same group that failed last time, disrupted our community, were very nasty. You see that same nastiness on social media today. You want to vote them into office, vote them into office. But this nastiness in our community by nasty people has to stop. Has to stop. Just vote for it or against it. There's no need to be nasty to each other. And then, of course, there's the Bruce Township politicians. Susan Brockman, who's all over Facebook, and some of her cohorts, who wish to keep Bruce in control of your money. Washington puts up 70% of the money, gets 50% of the vote, can't get anything done. If they want to veto what we want to do, it's 50-50 votes. That's not acceptable, even if this deal doesn't go through. If there's people that think killing this deal kills us fixing that, think again, because I'm going to call a vote, and we're going to fix that problem. So don't, if you're going to vote no, don't vote no because you think you're protecting the existing relationship, because I don't see this board in business with Susan Brockman much longer. Let's talk about rodeo clowns. You know what a rodeo clown is? The purpose of a rodeo clown is to distract the bull from the rider and to provide entertainment while they do it, right? And the same could be said of some of the people deliberately spreading misinformation. I'm not talking about the people who have a sincere disagreement with the deal. Man, I work for you. If you disagree, you disagree. I respect that. Come talk to me. We'll debate it. That's cool. Go vote the way you want to vote. I'm talking about the people in that group that I just named, the 4 groups. The misinformation they're spreading is nothing more than the rodeo clown trying to distract you from reality. We got a chance for a community center at a much lower cost than we could build it ourselves. This is your opportunity to get it. If you don't want it, fine. Everything else they're raising is a lie and is a manipulation of the system, trying to scare you and get you to vote no for the 4 reasons I stated. They're rodeo clowns. They're distracting you from the bull, or from the rider. Let's go through the township resources. My friend posted the other day that the township's using township resources to promote that. This is illegal, except that it's not illegal what we've done. Not at all. I want you to think before you even answer the question. 6 members of this board understand what I'm doing and aren't calling it illegal. The expensive guy at the end of the table is a lawyer. We've run everything we've done by him. There's nothing illegal being done by the township board. The law prohibits us to promote a millage. It does not prohibit us from giving information on it. Just like you see the schools do, hey, here's the millage, here's what it's going to do, here's what we hope to accomplish, here's the other options we considered and why we rejected them. Go vote. That's what we're doing. I challenge you to look at what we've done. We've drawn a picture, which is not illegal, that has been available so people understand the concept. We've had a fact sheet to get rid of some of the lies that are deliberately being spread, and that's on our website. We've had a presentation much like this one that we cleaned up and put on the website. There's nothing promotional in there, just facts, teaching people what the truth is so they can make an informed decision. And I did an interview on WBRW, same thing, and I said the same thing that I'm saying now. Vote your conscience. Just vote informed. Don't let the rodeo clowns get you off your game. Everything we have done, including the video, has been reviewed by legal counsel before it's been done. So I want to say to the people making these accusations, you're looking at the faces of your neighbors up on this board and some people's coworkers. Tell them that you think they violated the law and are being unethical. Because you say it on Facebook, don't you? Some of you, not the majority. It's unacceptable. We are following the law. Those with a stranglehold over the local social media platforms may be upset that their deliberate misinformation is being called out, but that's fair play. That's information, not promotion. One of the many things they're saying is, again, distract people from the rider, is that this is going to end Star Transportation. Seniors are going to be stranded at home. There's no impact on senior transportation. That's a different arrangement entirely. Again, it's the rodeo clowns distracting people from the rider, distracting the bull from the rider. Is there a lady named Cindy Knight here? Cindy Knight? No, she's not here. Not here? Cindy Knight's a realtor in town, good person, qualified person. She went out because she believes in this project, and she starts spouting her views on social media about it. And the cronies of the politician went out there and assaulted her and accused her of being the one who brokered the deal, started asking her how much she got paid for the deal. Right, Marilyn? That happened, right? Except that she wasn't paid anything for the deal. She wasn't even involved in it. She didn't even know about it until after the fact. But because she showed support, this group of people that I'm warning you, the public, about, assaulted her and accused her of unethical behavior. And in fact, it happened on Sam's page, and Sam knows the truth. He was at the meeting. He knows there was no broker in this deal. I did the deal. I negotiated the deal. But there was no clarification to say, hey, this lady is being falsely accused. She was not involved. Sadly, the page is being used to spread misinformation, deliberately so. This idea that Total owes money, I just told you all about it. They don't owe us the road. They don't owe us the SAD any more than anyone else does. So when you take their purchase price, it's already built in, just like it was for all the other comps I told you. The only thing they owe is its temporary certificate of occupancy that's Peggy raised, and I'll explain that in a second. It's about $100,000 worth of stuff that needs to be cleaned up. These people are taking their information from a buyer appraisal that had an intent and had a couple of things that just turned out to not be true, in all honesty. And I explained this already. Similar to that, the issue was raised, why was the tax value so low? Oh, they went to the Board of Review, and the tax value was, I don't even know what the numbers are. I've seen so many numbers on Facebook. You're paying $11.5 million, and the real tax value, according to the Township assessor, was $3 million, or whatever the number is. It was lower, absolutely. This is common. The state equalized value, which is an attempt by a township assessor to value your property so we can tax it, is typically lower in a growing community that is quickly adding infrastructure. Why? Because it's basing those valuations on a 2-year-old sales study. So you're going with old information that's in a highly accelerated market, while we're also adding all this infrastructure that greatly improves the value of the property. And the proof's in the pudding, because it's not just total, it's across the board. In Washington Township alone, the SEV was for any properties that sold in the last year was 3 times the sales price was 3 times the SEV because of this phenomenon I'm talking about. We are a fast-growing community with quickly added infrastructure, and that causes the SEV to be much lower for commercial industrial properties than the actual sales price when something does sell. 3 times as much. For residential, it's twice as much. So be thankful, because I'm not taxing your homes as much as you think I am, or as much as I should. It's because of the high growth in our community and the quick addition of infrastructure, it drives, and the fact that it's a 2-year-old leg in a study, that's what drives the differential. If it was Washington, I'd say, boy, maybe we're doing something wrong. Guess what it is in northern Macomb County in general? About the same, about a third for commercial industrial. We've checked, and that's available. You can come to the assessing counter, and I'm sure Marilyn would love to expand her book. The facts are real. There was nothing improper going on with his SEV. We're not overpaying, and he wasn't given any benefits that any other business wouldn't have come in and asked for and gotten. He did come in for a Board of Review, and the Board of Review did give him a review downward, like every other business. Why? He did have a first year of operations that were rough, because he got started late because of construction. Board of Review thought it was proper to give it to him. So they did. Now, again, that's one of the biases in the government system, right? You give them a review that allows them to go down, just like all the golf courses and everybody else around here. Well, that's a permanent change that doesn't get reversed until the land is sold. So even though he has a bad first year, the second year might be better and the third year might be great. It doesn't come back until the land is sold. That's one of the phenomenons of SEV that the general public doesn't understand. I can't even explain it very well, other than to say it's true throughout Washington Township for all commercial, industrial, and residential properties, and it's true throughout northern Macomb because we're a high-growth area. And the data's there. We've got multiple pages. Anyone can FOIA it. Come on in. You want to call me a liar, get it yourself and know the truth. Parks and Rec programs are being eliminated, right? That's what I saw on Facebook. We're eliminating Parks and Rec programs so we can buy a soccer building. We're not eliminating anything. This is the merger of 3 concepts. Parks and Rec, which will continue just under Washington control since we're putting in the most money. The idea of leasing out to leagues and that sort of thing, which is Total's approach to life. We'll do some of that. And the drop-in value. Having a fitness center people can drop into. Having a splash park you and the grandkids can drop into. Having pickleball you can come and do. Having a sand volleyball court you can come and play. Basketball you can come drop in. A game room for the kids you can come drop in. Senior activities, and trust me, I don't know what it's like in other towns. We're swamped with them here. And we're going to provide them a great place to go to do their wood carving, to do their card playing, and all the other things they do. So no, we're not changing any or cutting programs. It's never even been the thought. We're doing this, we're investing to give a quality of life for our community. We want a quality of life for our seniors and our young. That's why we're doing this. Can't do it if people are misled by liars. Will we lose taxes? You'll lose taxes by total not paying them, and you'll gain multiples of that by a $100 million facility or something else we replace it with if the other deal falls through. Because trust me, we got people biting at our heels for that land out there. So you're not losing anything, you're gaining. Why buy after you just granted these guys tax abatements to be there? Well, that's a lie too. They never got any tax abatements. It's just simply untrue. Do you notice a pattern? Do you see? People will say anything to get the outcome they want. And all we're trying to do is give a choice to the public of an amenity. But they're lying to you. Get your data from reliable sources. Temporary CFO, great question. It is common for the building official and the fire marshal to allow a business or even a home to open on a temporary CFO basis if all the life safety issues are addressed. So, is the roof proper? Is the plumbing and electrical proper? Is all the life safety issue stuff done? Then you're not going to hold them up from opening up over the plants outside, or the fact that there might be a sidewalk in the back of the parking lot not put in, or something of non-safety value, right? No court in the world would uphold you if you held up somebody's entrance into their home over landscaping or moving a pile of dirt or putting in a sidewalk. No court in the world. Legal counsel will nod his head. Bob, would a court hold up a certificate of occupancy over landscaping and a sidewalk?
I already told you that answer, and the answer is no.
So, fire marshal, building official, and the rest of the construction team evaluated the property. It was well built. It was safely built. All the life safety things were taken care of. The owner had some concerns about landscaping placement, sidewalk placement, and so on, because after all, we're running a sewer pipe down his property. Is it going to be on the north side or is it going to be on the south side? I don't know. And then we had concerns. If he's going to put in a sidewalk and we wind up bumping out the building on the sidewalk, does that make sense? There were all kinds of stuff that made us say, look, these non-essential things, these non-life safety things, put in abeyance. If we buy you, we'll decide what to do. It's like $90,000 or $100,000 of nits and gnats, moving a pile of dirt, putting in a sidewalk, that kind of thing. I don't even know if it's that much. It's nothing. But we put it in abeyance because we were negotiating. We've been off and on negotiating for a year. There's no life safety thing here. And I'm appalled that people in this community, including public officials, would chastise a business and talk about safety issues because they're saying, oh, they got a temporary CFO, there must be a safety issue. There's no safety issues. You want to talk about who's mad? The building official and the fire marshal, both of whom aren't here tonight, you're going to hear from them soon because they're furious that people would spread misinformation like this, like we let people into a building unsafely. The CFO was temporary. It was temporary for a reason. Once we got into negotiations, guys, it sat. And it had to sit. Because you're not going to make them put in a sidewalk if we buy the deal and wind up moving things around and putting a splash park there instead. Okay? And, frankly, if the deal doesn't go through and you guys don't vote for it, that's fine. He's going to have to put the sidewalk in. So we don't want to give him a permanent CFO because that tells him he's done. He's not done. He's going to put that sidewalk in if we don't buy it. So, the items were minor. Understand what you're talking about before you post things and slander a business that may cause other leagues to say, I'm not going to go there because I hear he doesn't have fire suppression. I hear this, I hear that. Based on misinformation by people with a political and financial objective to scuttle the deal. No fire suppression, let's talk about that. Facility has fire suppression. Don't know if you know that. It's suppressed on the west side, where the exercise rooms are, the bathrooms, and so on. The field is not suppressed. You know why the field is not suppressed? Because when this project was approved, The code didn't require it. Why? Because there's no grandstands. If there were grandstands, he would have had to suppress it. Without grandstands, at the time this was approved, the fire code didn't require the suppression. So as any business owner would do, he says, look, I got no people in the stands and I got no grandstands. I don't meet the requirement. I'm going to save the money. A lot of businesses would have done that, okay? Now, does that mean that if we want to use the building, we have to do it? Well, it depends. If we're going to use it for graduations and that sort of thing, yeah. But we're changing the use. We're changing the use, and that's okay. So we'll have to spend for that. And some guy online thinks he's an expert. We've actually talked to a fire suppression company that is an expert in this community. We send all of our difficult fire suppression work out to him. And he's quoting under $200,000 to bring it up to speed. And that's in our numbers, in our economics. So again, don't slander a business for political reasons, for God's sake. You know, I've got people in this community that I don't agree with, who own businesses, and I'd love to just, sometimes, because they drive me crazy. But that's their living, and you can't do that, especially if you're a politician. Trust. It's okay to reject the millage for your own reasons, whatever those reasons are. But you have an obligation when you vote to be informed by something other than social media controlled by people who throw people off their page if they disagree with them. The feeding frenzy is regarding our board being on the take, unacceptable, unethical, and with what I've gone through in my life, I want someone to say it to my face outside. And they won't. We have facts here at Washington Township. We have a track record. The people that are spreading this nonsense are the interested buyers, the people who want Unicorn to go to Bruce, the Bruce Township politicians who want to keep the gravy train going, and political people who have an objective, to control this township, and you don't want these people anywhere near your money. Look at this board. These are your neighbors that people are falsely accusing online. If this is about trusting motives, whose motives do you believe? Nameless, faceless people with an agenda on Facebook, or the people that gave you the AA bond rating? Zero legacy costs. You got $7 million in Bruce and $10 million in Romeo, by the way. I think it's 15 or 20 in Shelby. We got zero because we manage our money properly. We've locked in sound collective bargaining agreements for 5 years. We've got the highest property values in the county, the 6th lowest millage rate in the county. We've initiated a cleanup of Macomb County. These people want to throw around greasing palms and all those other terms because it gets them votes. I initiated the federal investigation. I participated in the federal investigation. I wore the wire. I put my life and family at risk, and I resent that. We've delivered on infrastructure, including the water storage facility. That's some of the very failed politicians from 2016 who are planning their run in 2020. They objected to that. You've had 4 years with no increases. And our projections show another 5 coming. 5 more years with no water increases. Your board did that, 6 out of 7. We're operating 3-year millages below the approved maximum. You approved higher millages than we're operating under in 3 cases because we respect your money. We're operating at similar staffing to 2008 despite the huge growth in our community. We're heavily investing in infrastructure. We've heavily increased police and fire presence while staying within our numbers. We have strong business growth, and this interest that we're generating out there, guys, I'm telling you, it is unbelievable, and it is positive. It is good for you, the taxpayer. I promise you. And guys, we got an incredible quality of life. I don't know where these people on Facebook live. I get up every morning, can't believe I get to live in this area. Can't believe it. These people gave you that. The people some want to slander because they don't want a deal to go through for their own reasons. When you vote, yes or no, just know the facts. You can go to our website for a fact sheet, for a presentation. Maybe we'll put this one out there. I'll clean it up so it doesn't, I just did this in the last hour. You got the billboard, you got any one of us you could talk to. You can come to a board meeting and ask your questions. We'll do our best. We're not always right. We don't always have the answers. But we have the right motives. With that, Marilyn?
First of all, I'm not hiding. You all know who I am. And
Do you mind if Marilyn, if the sound guys are telling me that no one's going to hear you at home, do you mind if you stand up here and I'll take your questions from my chair? Yeah, I never give a short presentation, do I? Go ahead.
drink some pop. First of all, I'm not hiding behind a keyboard. I've been open about what I've been saying, and it's not political with me. It's not financial with me. And I don't believe you answered my question about the certificate of occupancy. Is it normal to have a 21-month certificate temporary?
No.
Okay. Well,
It's not normal to be negotiating.
can you be honest? I mean, we're not talking about landscaping here. Yeah, there might not be a lot of issues with the building inside, but is this normal?
It is not
21
normal.
months. You said you would answer my
It
question.
is not, I am answering your question. It is not normal for a certificate of occupancy to stand out for a year and a half. But it's also not normal in the middle of a temporary certificate of occupancy to start negotiating with the owner of the building, okay? You understand? You understand the implications if I in any way was viewed as looking like I was holding that certificate of occupancy over someone's head to achieve a negotiating result. That would be unacceptable. So we deal with the world we live in because we're trying to do the right thing. And yes, it's out there for a long time. It has nothing to do with safety issues. It's stuff that we can wait on in order to negotiate this deal.
So you're saying other businesses do this as well?
We've had other people operate on a temporary for a while, not anyone that I know of that went a year and a half.
There's no expiration on it?
The expiration will occur after the deal does or doesn't go
I'm
through.
not talking about this one, just normal.
No. Sometimes they will be issued, like if somebody says, like we had a fellow in Seven Lakes build a home. He got done late in the year. There was no way his landscaping was going to survive. We gave him a temporary, let him occupy his home, and said, hey, by June of next year, you have to plant your landscaping. And that's okay. In this particular case, it can be revoked by the building official if the work is not done. That's his right as a building official. But we're going to wait and see where the public goes on this deal. And if the public chooses not to go ahead with the deal, then he's going to have to come clean. We'll give him a reasonable amount of time to come and do it, because it'll be winter at that point. You understand, these things come into play, right? You know, the president comes, winter comes, all these things get in the way. And you're negotiating, and you have to negotiate in good faith, and you can't look like you're levering a government requirement. Just telling you the truth. Any other questions, folks?
I'm Dave Jaye. I've had a house at 8303 Washington for over 27 years. Dan, when I met with you and the other two full-time employees, that was a 35-minute stream of consciousness. You beat yourself today.
I did, thank you.
With over an hour's worth of presentation. I'm going to ask in the spirit of your request for an informed vote that the Washington Township Board post online the Board of Review minutes that involved Total Sports. I had to pay my own personal money in order to get that information, and it was with that Board of Review meeting that we found that it wasn't somebody who was ignorant or lying that Total Sports was less than $11.5 million. It was Total Sports who said that their facility land was only 5.4. It wasn't somebody who was ignorant and lying. It was the Washington Township Board that also agreed that Total Sports was only worth $5.4 million. A second time, Total Sports said that their facility was only worth $5 million in their building permit, application, plus with $500,000 of the land that Washington Township sold to them. Maybe it was more, because I saw what you're posting was $500,000, but the purchase agreement was more. It's like 560. So Total Sports twice said that their land and property was worth $5.4 million. And a fourth party that is not ignorant or lying, which is the fee appraiser, said that Total Sports was only worth $6.4 million. And was only after that the board asked them to have a hypothetical evaluation as if the property was zoned industrial, do they come up with an extra $3 million. So I'm hoping you're going to post that entire 111-page, and I know it's 111 pages because I paid $11.11 for that. Post that as well as the two other pages that had the appraisal come in at $6.4 million. And there is never a appraisal that's done on a hypothetical. Hypothetical that it's a convention center, a hypothetical that it's a multi-story residential. We had a lot of trouble with the economy crash because of a lot of appraisers artificially inflating the values of property.
Mm-hmm.
And we had many financial institutions fail. So there are requirements to say that an appraisal must be a snapshot in time based on the designation of the property, which is agricultural, and the condition of the building, the property at that time. So I've given you 5 different organizations, and you've made a blanket statement, which is not true, that people who don't agree with you that the building is 11.5 are ignorant or lying. And I'd like to have those documents posted on the Washington Township site so people can make a decision for themselves.
I'm not going to put a business's financial information on the website. I think that's ridiculous. People can come in. I can't stop them. If it's public record, they can come in. But I think it's ridiculous to have a business's financial information posted. I think it's punitive. And apparently you were out of the room when I spoke. Let's be clear about some of the points you raised. You talked about a $5 million permit fee. You may not understand that
it wasn't a fee, it was their valuation.
It was a valuation of the building for the purpose of the building permit, which does not cover land costs and it doesn't cover land development costs, okay? A convenient fact you left out.
I did not. I said that in addition to the $500,000.
Land development costs, you realize, is $1 million or $2 million. It's a big number, okay? To put in pipe, roads, water, to move earth. You left that out. The other thing is, when somebody files a building permit, hey guys, I'm going to tell you something horrible about your fellow human beings. They always do what's best for them, okay? Every builder, when they come in and they say, here's my building permit, you know what? Their fee is based on the size of that permit. It's based on the size of the permit. You don't think every contractor that comes in here shaves the size of what they're estimating the fee to be so that they can get a cheaper permit? I'm not saying that's total doing that. There's a contractor involved. I know it happens. I see it every day. We do our best to combat it. But at any rate, you were out of the room when I spoke. This is part of the rodeo clown game. I'm going to be blunt. Because the only thing that matters is the value of that property today. Not history, not, hey, I think I heard this and I think I saw this 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago. What is it worth today? I just gave you an entire slide of $50,000 an acre and more land values. Those are facts. That's not theory. That our appraiser left out. And we pointed that out to them, and they gave an addendum that the rodeo clowns failed to put on Facebook.
Well, Dan, then please put it on the township website.
Happy to. I'll be happy to put the appraisal on the website.
And with the board of review, that's all public information. And I got that information that Total Sports lost $40,000 last year, which was one of their justifications. As well, it should be transparent and available. And the township board had the power by state law to overturn it, and you didn't do it. Now, regarding the safety issues,
Dave,
on that building
I'm going to
permit,
give you another minute and then wrap it up. We do have other people here besides Dave Jaye.
well, I got it. And I also got a financial interest in this. I don't want to pay higher property taxes for
Great for you.
A 20
You got
another
1
20
minute,
years.
so use it wisely.
Government-run facilities don't pay property taxes. They don't pay sales tax, everything from tractors to toilet paper to gas to fertilizers. Government-run facilities don't pay sales tax, they don't pay income tax, state to the state nor the federal level. If Total Sports was going to continue, even at that 32% lower tax rate, we would save for you, the township and the schools, $7 million a year. So I truly hope that you would include some opportunity for a different side of the story and not try to call people rodeo clowns or ignorant and stupid who disagree with you. That's beneath you. You're a smart guy. You've done a lot of great things for the township, and I understand that you're all wound up, but try to treat people with some dignity and respect.
Then I expect you, a man I've spoken to multiple times, face to face, you, a fellow conservative, I expect you to be honest in your post, and if you ever refer to my board as taking bribes or sleaze or posting pictures of politicians counting money, that's unacceptable.
Those are business
You've been
people.
gone to Korea.
Those were business people.
You've been gone to Korea for a number of years. Nice to have you back. The world's changed. This isn't 1980.
I've been back from South Korea since 2005.
Thank you. You might want to consider registering to vote soon. My point is this. You don't know the community like the rest of this board does. And when you refer to this board in a denigrating way as if we're counting money, that's a rodeo clown. Get out of the past, get familiar with your community, start serving it like
I've
we
lived
do.
in this community longer than you have, Dan. 27 years.
Who's higher?
Just would like to thank the 6 of you for investing in Washington Township families. Thanks.
Ladies first, Dave.
All right, I have some questions. Okay, I actually would like an apology because as a person of this township, I am trying to find out answers that are not easily provided to me. So I guess I am a rodeo clown. I don't have any political or economical...
You mistook me, Peggy, and I apologize. I think I've been very respectful, and you have been in this meeting as well. I'm not in any way referring to you. I'm referring to people who have gone online and referred to my board as if they are corrupt. There's a couple of them here. There's a couple that didn't make it today. Like I said, most of the people who disagree, they have their own reasons. That's okay. I'm talking about the couple of people who slandered my board with some help. And that's not acceptable. It's not you. You've been great. Your questions have been respectful. I appreciate it. And I'm not referring to everyone who disagrees with me as a rodeo clown. I'm referring to people who feel it's okay to slander their neighbors for a political objective.
Okay.
That's all.
I have questions. You keep referring to the land and the value of the land as industrial, but it's, to my knowledge, currently, that it's still agricultural. Is that correct?
It's master planned to be in our industrial recreational district. And it's the master plan that drives the value, not the current zoning.
Okay, so when does that change? When do you go and make it official? Do you vote upon that in order to change it? Obviously, people from the master plan get together and then they decide, and it seems like most people like myself usually don't have a say in it.
It happens when a developer buys it and they want to do something and they say, wait a minute, the master plan doesn't say it's agricultural, they say it's business, so I'm going to make it a business. And they have to come before a citizen body called the Planning Commission. It's not us. Abby serves on it, but the rest of us don't. And that Planning Commission has to hear their plea. The public gets to opine on it, and sometimes they get it granted, sometimes they don't. If they have a legal right to it, they'll get it. If they don't, then usually they won't. Sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes it's kind of in between, and there has to be some horse trading. But it's just public meetings. It is a citizen body. They're not, public officials. Mm-hmm. They're citizens that are appointed every 4 years to serve this purpose. So you do get to say, and you should come to the meetings, and you'll find, I think, most of the time, you'll see that body does a really good job. They make their mistakes like we do, but most of the time, they do a really good job.
Every 5 years, we're required by the state of Michigan to review our master plan.
Right.
That has been done not too long ago. In fact, one of them, several meetings, was regarding this overlay of a recreational industrial district, which is what we're talking about now, that particular area. And we have public meetings. It's not formal like this at all. We're all sitting in chairs. There's a presentation given by our professional planner here. Engineer has comments. Planning commission members attend. And we did have numerous residents attend, and we really encourage you to attend because it is your community, and we're looking at it for the future, how you want to plan out our community. So we encourage people to attend, and you have all the opportunity in the world to do so.
Okay.
And oftentimes, a member of the public will raise an issue that the panel or its experts weren't thinking of. So it is a public meeting for a reason. There really is an impact.
Okay.
Absolutely, and we want your ideas. That's what makes the system work when we participate.
Okay, so I know that the appraisal, you're saying it's for purchases, but when I read the appraisal, all single pages, every single page of it, and you are stating that the value in order to build something like that would be $200 a square foot. My question for you, because we want to make this process transparent, and where the frustration comes from people on Facebook is the lack of knowledge and information that the township provides. I had to find out this information, and that raised a lot of questions and concerns that I have.
Did you call and ask any of us? Who did you talk to, Peggy, truly?
I actually got a copy of it, and I read it.
Okay, so if you had questions, and I'm
Yes.
just going to, just like Abby, we are here. Dan is here every day. Mike is here every day. I am here every day. Ask us the questions. Don't rely on that like he's talking. Come ask us. Dave Jaye comes, Dave, Marilyn, they all come in, there's FOIAs, they ask those questions. Come ask the questions. And then if you want to share your answers, do that. But don't just take that. Come ask those questions and have those conversations.
Okay, so I do know that the appraisal was based upon an industrial buildings. In no way, shape, or form is this building an industrial building for its purposes to compare it. It's like comparing apples and oranges per square foot.
It's next, you're going to talk about next best use.
So I know that that is one of the concerns.
Yeah,
I know you're saying that...
Just to address that, Peggy, because you're right. Like we said, it's a really tough building to analyze, right? Because how many...
Well, there's a lot of buildings.
So
There's a lot of sport complexes that have been built over the years. And with Total Sports, this is not their first building.
No,
They
it's
know
not.
exactly how much it's going to cost.
But you also have to understand, some of those buildings are bubbles, which aren't even really buildings. Every building has its nuances, right? And so it's easy to say, oh, it should be easy to analyze. It's not. And WEME is an excellent appraiser. They didn't fail in their appraisal. They looked at it and said, well, the next best use is probably industrial, and they valued it based on industrial, and said, but, the building's got flaws if you're going to use it for industrial, so we got to ding it. So but they also looked at it as a community center based on his first year of operations, and they dinged him for that. Well, that was first year of operations, right? So they were trying to triangulate the value. You ever see somebody looking at 3 or 4 different ways of looking at it to see if they could kind of come together? Here's the problem. We're all talking about somebody's theoretical analysis. I gave you reality. I gave you land sales in that area. The land sales are a lock. There is no disputing the values I put up on that board.
But that's industrial.
Not all. Not all.
But
It's
the
all over the
prices for
board.
agricultural is a lot less.
But it's not agricultural. So, again, you have to look at it.
But it's zoned as agricultural.
It's zoned, but it's not master planned. It's the master plan that drives the value, right? It's what it's going to be that drives the value, not what it is today.
Right, but I'm not what I'm trying to say is that the gentleman brought up a good point. I mean, people lie in the building permits. Yeah, I know that. I have a master's degree in architecture, and I know how it works. I know how zoning works and stuff. But the frustrating part about it is my question is, I saw one of your comments that also with Park and Rec, that was a concern I had too, with you're using $8 million from Park and Rec to be put into this facility, according to your sheet?
I think the number was, in addition to the $11.5 million sale, we're putting in $6 million to get the things that we're talking about getting.
Right, but
Roughly.
you said Park and Rec, $8 million. Is that why we are planning to split from them? So that, because we are a larger community and we have more money, that we're going to be putting more money into this facility than if we weren't part of the Parks and Recs?
I'm not trying to be cagey. I don't know where the $8 million is coming from.
It was on your slide. You posted it
Up
on
here?
the Washington Township page. Yeah.
What's the $8 million? Anybody remember?
The property around it?
Oh, when we're purchasing the property, your government is actually made up of multiple buckets: fire bucket, police bucket, ambulance bucket, general bucket, and so on. Park and Rec bucket. We have split the value between Parks and Rec and the general fund, so that the general fund's buying some of the land, and the Parks and Rec is buying the building and just the land that it's on.
The new Parks and Rec.
That might be the $8 million that you're referring to. And the reason we did the split is because we don't want the land to be subject to the bond that Parks and Rec is going to get, because then we have to go and kowtow to a bonding agency about what we do with that land after the fact, and we don't want that. So that had to be free and clear and outside of the Park and Rec bucket.
All right, another question. You also said at one time that we would be a good neighbor to Romeo and Bruce, and so that they can use their facility, but why can't we be a good neighbor to Shelby and use their facility and save the $11.5 million?
We could. And the people in our community would not be happy. Most people in our community want this. I think you're going to find that on November 5th. They don't want to go to Shelby. They want their facility. They want their property value increased. They want that unicorn project. Being a good neighbor doesn't mean doing everything the neighbor wants you to do. And, I don't believe we can sustain a relationship where we're putting in 70% of the money and our vote is blocked on everything. So if we have an initiative that we want to achieve and they don't want to do it, it's blocked, and we're putting in most of the money. I also don't think we can continue in a relationship where my board, generally speaking, stays out of all the social media stuff, stays out of the silliness and the pettiness of it, but our partner in Bruce is on there daily, assaulting not just members of this board, but our community.
But you're insulting us.
Running down our community. I'm not insulting you.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not. If you do, I apologize.
You're not giving us the opportunity. How much time have you invested in this?
Many hours.
How many hours?
Many hours. Don't even know.
Okay. How many hours have you invested into proving that this is not a good idea?
Why would I do that?
Why would we do that?
Because in order to understand if it's a good idea or not, you have to understand the other side of the story. And what you're not understanding
I
is a
disagree.
lot of people that live in the township. You have forced this information upon us, but yet we get limited time on to stress our concerns.
Peggy, you get to vote November 5th. You get to choose
Right.
whether to do it or not. So
But how are
no
we
one's,
to obtain the information and
no
let
one's
everybody
forcing
else
you.
know?
No one's forcing you to do anything. You get to vote November 5th. It's 100% your choice. And we've said repeatedly, other than the loss of the unicorn project, which is going to bum us out if we lose that, we'll live with it. We understand. We get it. You have the right to make that choice. We put that choice before you, most of us. So we're not telling you you can't choose. It's your choice. We have had, this is probably the 5th meeting we've discussed this at. We have put out a fact sheet. We've put out a video, an hour-long video discussing these issues. We've made ourselves available to the public like never before. The people who are coming to see us, we do our best to explain, I've never seen you before. I've never seen you before. And yet this issue's been out there for 45, 50 days. And, you know, if you want to be a part of the decision-making process, you got to do the reading, you got to look at the materials. We have put a lot of work into making that available to you so you can make a good decision. But you got to do something too. You got to call. You got to call and ask your questions. You see something on Facebook that sounds awful? First question should be, is it true? Are people on the take? Call. Say, what's going on here with this value? I don't understand. And you and I would have a conversation, and you might agree or disagree, but at least you'd know, right? You'd know a perspective. And so we've done everything we can to make the information available to you guys. We've never had a project we've busted our butt on so much to make available to the public. It's now in your hands.
We've had several committees in the past, about 2 years ago, of citizens who came in and talked about architecture, structure, cost, finances, and what they want and what they don't want. And we've had 3 or 4 meetings of that about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. So the community got involved in that well over 50, 60 days ago before this agreement was even signed.
Right, I know that there was a video as far as the grand opening stating about the projection of what you actually wanted to turn the area into was a large sports complex where people would come from all over and use that facility. So I guess another question I have for you is, I know that we have wanted growth as far as, let's say, a splash pad. My kid's older. He doesn't need a splash pad anymore. But I understand the concerns, and yet for how many years have we not been able to provide that? But for some reason, now we're going to spend $11.5 million. And you talk about not buildings that weren't available. There's been buildings available over the years. I mean, Kmart, for example, that big building, that could have been used. It's just, there's more options out there, and it just seems like,
again, I don't think,
I would like some transparency to really find out how much the actual cost to build out Total Sports was.
I don't know how much more transparent we can be, but I could tell you that the Kmart building would have been woefully inadequate, and the community would have hung us had we chose to take that building and try to make that a community center. That building's probably going away in a couple of years. Let's just be clear about that. That's probably as old as I am. I'm probably going to wait a few years. The issue about transparency, Peggy, I don't know how much more transparent we could be. It's how much more can we tell you? What questions haven't we answered? And if we haven't answered them, vote no.
I want to know how much Total Sport cost to build.
He's right here. He can ask. If he wants to, he can answer it.
How much?
But again.
But you have to know if it's a good deal because you have to understand how much he actually.
So when you bought
paid.
your house in Washington Township, did you find out how much it cost to originally build it? Or did you look at the market today?
It's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for.
Right, I understand that, but it's only 2 years since it was built. What I'm trying to get at.
2 years, it's actually 3 years since they bid it out, and contractor costs have gone up 25% in that 3 years. 25%.
Right, but
and property values have skyrocketed.
Have you developed plans for a different community center, and have you gotten bids on those?
No, and here's why. You asked why we haven't done anything all these years.
No. Newman Smith.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
Newman Smith came in, did this a few years ago. We had their costs just
But
paid.
my point is, she's wondering why all of a sudden we're making a decision. Because all these years, we're looking at each other saying, we're not going to spend $30 or $40 million on a community center. We're just not big enough. And so that's feeding back. We wanted what the community wants. We know what the community wants. But how in the heck do we, a 27,000 person town, come up with $30 or $40 million? So when we had this idea and we approached Total Soccer, it was our way of saying, look, we're a small town, we'll grow into it, right? We will buy this facility, we will make the amendments we have to make it a nice place today, and over time we'll make other amendments. The community will make the decisions each year for the next 30 years what they want to do with it. but it was a better way of doing it than spending $40 million. We didn't have $40 million. And so when Newman Smith and others told us the cost, and we were incredulous too, but I've proven to you what the reality is.
Well, the reality, I know, it seems like, and I know you keep saying, I can vote no, but the reality seems like you're pushing this down my throat.
If you feel that way, you should vote no.
I know.
No.
And
No.
let's just, I know you guys are, like, people are for it.
I guess you've never spoken here before,
You
Peggy?
have to understand where I'm coming from, and
I appreciate that's your view. I don't agree with it. But here's the thing. I've let everybody kind of go over tonight, and I'm letting you go over because you've never spoken here, and you've been amazingly respectful, and I appreciate that. And I don't always deserve that. But I got to ask you to wrap it up. One more question, because I got other people here that are going to speak.
Can I just address your comp question?
yeah.
There's a comp up there that's agricultural land, like this is.
Yeah.
There's a comp up there that's agricultural land, active agricultural land, like this is. That sold for this kind of money per acre because it's zoned in our master plan for commercial and light industrial uses.
Right.
So that is verifiable.
Right.
Absolutely 100%.
Right. As
So one of those
industrial.
comps
Right.
So what,
is
are you
verifiable.
trying to say there's a farmer who is going to come, is that what you were thinking in your mind? There's a farmer who's going to come buy the land to farm it for agriculture?
No, what I'm saying is you want to spend $11.5 million, but we couldn't afford to put in a splash pond
But the 11.5
for
gives
the
you
last
splash pad.
10 years.
That's, okay, so that's, no offense, but that's not, I think you've been very, I like Dan, I think you've been very articulate and very well versed in with your questions. Splash Park is something that has to have something that you program with it, okay? You don't just put a splash pad out. Parks and Rec has looked at this for over 5 years. Cindy and Don Hook, I don't know where you are, but they're the ones who brought the splash pad to us before. They went to the Romeo Kiwanis. They tried to get this done, and it got to the point, because Parks and Rec had said, you don't just build a splash pad, okay? You have to be able to program with it, because just like you said, your son, he's not going to use the splash pad anymore. You grow out of it. It's the type of thing you go to for a little while, and you grow out of it.
Till you're a grandparent, and you're back.
And then you're back, and that's the way a splash pad works. So the one thing that happens with a splash pad is we had looked several places. We had looked at Bruce Township. We looked at putting it into the Bruce Township Park right next to their Township Hall. Was not a good place because we couldn't program with it. That's not me. That's Parks and Rec who said we can't program with it. The Romeo Kids Foundation made the decision, and it was probably the right decision at the time. They've invested into that park that's by the library with the money that was going to go for the splash pad. I say kudos to them because a splash pad needs to be programmed, something where something else is going on. You put a splash pad there, there is something else going on. That was a decision, okay? It is a splash pad. It's something that people have wanted, but it hasn't been in the right place for it. That's the right place for it now.
If you piecemeal things without a strategy, you wind up with a very disjointed Parks and Rec program. If you suck it up for a few years, save some money, and we have, and you wait for this kind of a situation where you can figure out a solution. And we've got a solution. It works. It may not be what you want, but it works.
There's people.
Then you could start putting it all together.
There are people who come in here, and you want to talk about sports, you want to talk about pickleball, you want to talk about usage, you want to talk about a pool. There's people who want a recreational pool. There's people who want a competitive pool, and you can't get the two sides to meet. You know, my opinion is very simple. We have an obligation to plan for this township. If you are a Shelby Township resident, you have parks that you can go to, and those parks have changed over the years. If you come to any of our parks, and I'm going to say Romeo, Washington, and Bruce, it is because we have been a program-based Parks and Rec. We have not been a facility-based Parks and Rec. Shelby Township has been a park-based program, they have been a facility-based, okay, not program. They are changing in that facility because they now know also that it needs to come together. If you come into the senior center, Marilyn's now showing up in the senior center, and I applaud her because this place rocks. It rocks every day from 8 a.m. till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This place rocks. We can continue to put those programs to other places. we, in my mind, is very simple. We have a obligation to give this community a spot that it can grow in. If we sit here now and say, nope, don't do it. 10, 20, I don't know, it was 15 years ago, there was another millage that came on for a community center. They wanted 3 mills, I think it was. Failed miserably because the township couldn't support it. But they realized when you build this type of community, that's what you do. If I said that this was a bad idea at this point, you should be ashamed of me. My obligation is to make sure there is something for the future. That is that future. I believe in it. I think it is the right price, the right place. If the voters don't, then the voters don't. But then we did everything we needed to do to say, here's your opportunity to have a community center. Here's your opportunity to improve your park system. Okay? Right now, if you go to Gilcher Park, except for our playscape, kind of looks the same that it's looked for years. There's a young lady, woman in her 30s. She lives across in Copperwood. Am I saying the right one? The one across from the high school? You know that subdivision? Copperwood?
Yeah.
Okay. She said to me, she goes, I grew up here. She goes, those parks are the same parks that I used to use. They're the same parks. I am taking my kids. Where are those other activities? Where are those other things? Now that you can take that type of facility, I don't care if it's everybody who works at Parks and Rec right now. They could program the crap out of that stuff. And they could make that build to the point that in the future, it is an amenity that people say, oh, I live in Washington Township, I have a great park system. If I don't do this, if I didn't vote for those things, shame on me, because I am not being true to the future and not being true to the people who come here every day and use it. And I hope you use a lot of our activities. I hope you go on our trips. I hope you come here and you work out in our fitness center. I hope you sign up for a Zumba class. I hope you go to the parades. I hope you come here for the Christmas tree lighting. Because if you do all those things, then you understand what Washington Township is and what can happen to our community as we continue to grow. And if we turn our back on it, shame on us. That's my opinion.
So let me ask you one more question. Based on the amount of people that live in this township compared to other cities, we are asking our fellow residents to pay for something a lot more than what we need. There's a lot of usable space that's not required, but yet we're still purchasing a large building that, in a sense, doesn't necessarily fill their needs.
Again, let me ask you this question. What do you use in Parks and Rec right now? What programs do you attend? Okay, I'm just being honest. So you need to attend something. You need to go. I think somebody said there's an open house at Total Sports on what day? Saturday? Go to it. Put your imagination hat on. And I'll tell you, most of these people sitting in this room, whether you're sitting on that side or this side, showed up for the last one. And they at least showed up and looked around.
I realize what you're saying is take a look at what you feel is the value. But what I'm saying is, how can you justify buying something when there's not enough value?
Did you go through the economics in the other meetings?
I did.
Then you need to call him and sit down and go through it in detail, because if you did, you'd get it.
Can I leave you a challenge and we've been patient with you tonight because you've never spoken before, and I'm glad you're here, because I see your name once in a while online. I never converse with you. Let's cut it in half. Let's build our own building, half the size, right? Because we're too small to buy that 117,000 square foot building. Except we're buying it for $64 a square, and we'd have to pay $250 to build it, and you'd wind up paying the same price anyway for half the building. There's a dilemma, right? So when you have a board that thought it through, took advantage of a situation to drastically reduce their costs versus building, and puts that before you, I'm going to tell you, you're not getting this opportunity a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. This is the only chance, because you're talking about a building that is basically one of a kind in this community, and there is no other to choose from. So it's either build or buy. And like I said, well, let's go build one, half its size, to address your concern, except you'll pay more money for that building half the size.
I don't agree.
What's that?
I don't agree.
Okay, but I'm in the business, so I'm telling you you're wrong.
So am I.
Great. Talk to Shelby. Talk to our engineer. Like I said, look at our fire station. Does anyone know what they're asking for a fire station?
Anyways,
Thank you for your
That
time.
was another question.
Please come by, though, and talk to
Are
me.
stuff like the fire station going to be put off
Peggy, do me a
because
favor.
of this?
Do me a favor so that these other people can have a chance. But can
Okay.
you come see me and see that I'm not a monster, and I won't ask you for money, I promise, despite what other people have said.
Yeah. All right,
I won't
thank
take
you.
anything from you. Just come talk to me about it. You'll find that we have the right motives. You might not agree with us, but we have the right motives.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Sir, sorry, I didn't realize it would be a long time, didn't make you wait.
Hello, my name's David Jaye, live on Palmer Drive in Glacier Club. Great meeting. I was happy to see it was a short agenda today. Lots of times for public talk. Anyways, it was a good presentation. It helped clarify, Dan, what you did on the screen there. Your presentation kind of answered a lot of the questions that people are asking on Facebook world. And being a reader of Facebook, yeah, there's some information that seems true and some of it seems false, and not everything you read online is 100% correct, so thanks for clearing up some of those things. But as a real estate broker myself, I really believe, and I tell sellers and buyers this all the time, a property is worth what a buyer and seller wants to pay and make the deal. Appraisers, I'm sorry, you could get 2 appraisals, 3 appraisals, 4 appraisals, 7 appraisals, none of them will be the same exact number. They'll be off, depends on the purchase price, but it could be off 10%, 20%, 30%. And at the end of the day, the seller and buyer look at each other, say, you still want to do the deal? And at some point, somebody, either comes down on price or goes up on price, but no 2 appraisals are the same, guaranteed. And if appraisal is done 2 or 3 years ago, it comes down to who paid for the appraisal. Was it the buyer? Was it the seller? Was it an independent? How can somebody be an independent if they're, somebody's going to be paying for it, so they're going to have a vested interest in getting either a low number or a high number. And we talked a little bit about taxable values and SEVs and that kind of thing. Yes, you're right. It's a 2-year rolling average as far as what the SEVs are, the state equalized values. And back in the bad days, 10 years ago when the Depression was here, I was working in that market, and sellers are constantly coming up to me saying, Dave, the property is not worth what I'm being taxed. And it's like, well, that's what it was worth 2 years ago. And so constantly I was trying, helping them with challenges at the city for tax appeals and that kind of things, because it was true, but the cities and townships were saying, well, sorry, we have to go by what the SEVs and the assessor said it was worth 2 years ago. Now we're in the other situation where the values are going up, either because of improvements on the land or the economy. And so SEVs, it's just a number. There's a lot of numbers for any property. It's the state value, the appraisal value, what a buyer thinks it's worth, what a seller thinks it's worth, what the real estate agent thinks it's worth. That's all I'm saying about the values. It's not one exact number. And one thing, too, I want to, obviously you cleared it up, and I really believe this is true. We're not buying a business. We're not buying a soccer business. We're not buying a failing business. We're buying, future possibilities, the way I look at it. And, I look at this as an opportunity for Washington Township to have future growth opportunities. We talked about the temporary occupancy permit. Makes sense as to why the occupancy, the final has not been completed. I understand that now from listening to the pros and cons of what you just said, and it makes sense to me. I heard a little bit about growth and why can't we keep things the way they were. Well, I'm a fairly new resident to this town, and I moved here because I like the town. I like the township. I like what it had to offer, and I really believe, even though I'm an old guy, I think the recreation center is something that is good for the community, and I think that it's going to make Washington Township a great place to live and work. And it's real easy for a lot of people to say no to something because it's so much easier to status quo and keep things the same. So when in doubt, I see this all the time, people say no, not realizing, well, maybe I should say yes. And it's easy to spread rumors, rumors, whether they're true or false. Online, it's real easy to spread rumors like that. I look at it as, yeah, it does cost about $11 million, is what I've been hearing, but it's going to cost me about $50. I got $50 here. Okay, as a taxpayer, it's cost me $50 a year for something I probably won't use, but I'm going to vote yes on it because of all the improvements it's going to do for the township. And I know some people will pay more than $50. I bet you a lot of people that are complaining will be paying less than $50. That's for sure, especially if they don't own property. So at that point, I can say thanks for your presentation and have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments.
I'll keep my $50 for now.
You know, I just have one thing, just because we're in an elected officials update, and then I am going to talk about the county clerk's mobile office tomorrow real quick. People know I'm not a Facebook person, just not, don't do it. I just don't do it. But I really like living here. I like this community. I believe in the youth of this community, and I believe just in the people in here. And if you can't treat yourself and you can't treat each other well and nice, and you just have to be able to respect a difference in opinion, but please do that. I don't look at the stuff, but I think there's most of us here that can disagree. If you can disagree to the point that you can look at your kids tomorrow and say, hey, I think I did it the right way, or you can look at somebody else and say, I did it the right way. Keep your integrity. Don't fall into whatever cesspool exists, because I don't think these people, any of you in this room, is that type of person. I truly don't. So thank you. Keep that in mind, please.
I'd also like to request that of our board members.
I'm sorry, what was that?
She'd like to request that of our board members as well. Understood.
Not a problem.
Anybody else?
I would just like to thank the community for speaking up tonight. Whichever side you're on, we're okay with that. Dan, thank you for a very thorough talk about all the issues that have been brought up there, out there by the community. I do take offense to the things that are being said about the board. I am not his minion. I am not anything. I speak up to that man, probably more than anyone on this board, not here at the board, because I respect what we're doing. We have our conversations in our meetings, outside our meetings, and I let my opinion be known and the opinions that I hear from the people around us. I see myself as an advocate, an adversary for the people, and I will continue to do that as long as you want me to. It makes it difficult to be that when you see such, I don't even know what to call it, nastiness. It's not even that. That makes the people that want to do good things for our community not want to do things anymore. So just keep that in mind. We are your residents. We do listen, and vote however you want, but be educated on it. He's laid it out. You don't have to agree with it. Thank you.
I'll follow on with that, too. Unfortunately, I got involved in Facebook long ago, and I shouldn't have. But there are posts that are being put out there that say scam. I don't know how much more negative that you could possibly be to this board for people to advocate the fact that people on this board are scamming the community. I don't know how much lower you can sink to actually do that. I respect everybody on this board. I respect the supervisor. Yeah, sometimes he can go off and he can get passionate about what he's doing. And tonight you saw a little bit about that passion. Some will call him cocky, but I think it's called passion. So I believe in what we're doing. I believe that this community center is the right thing to do. If you don't think it's the right thing to do, look at Macomb Township. Look at Shelby. Look at Sterling. Are they paying money? Are they, the residents, funding community centers in those areas? They certainly are. Why shouldn't Washington Township do the same? Yeah, we might be a little bit smaller, but guess what? We've been presented with an opportunity to buy a 2-year-old facility at I'm going to call it a bargain price. And if we walk away from this opportunity, we will have missed the one chance that we can get for getting a brand new 117,000 square foot building for $64 a square foot. If you think that's not a good deal, vote no and come back to this board again and ask us to do the same thing next time and ask us to build a 117,000 square foot building and find out how much it's going to cost. When you're looking at a $20 or $30 million bill, the residents are going to vote no again. So this is an opportunity, maybe just a one-time opportunity where we actually have the chance to do something for the community and grow into it. That's really the long-term plan. This is not going to be, you unlock the door on Tuesday and Wednesday, you're rolling. There's going to be a little bit of grow-in time. And I think when you look at the proposal, the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 timelines, that's what we're going to wind up doing. So The commercial is, on Saturday, we're going to have another open house from 11:30 till 3 o'clock in the afternoon at Total Sports. And if you have any doubts, if you've not seen the building, come on by. We'll walk you around, we'll show you what's there right now, we'll show you the board, we'll show you the layout, and we'll tell you what we're planning. And then you make your own decision. Come November the 5th, you vote your conscience based on the information that we've given you, and we're only going to give you facts. We're not going to lead you one way or the other. I personally will vote for this because it's the right thing to do for the community. I don't have any kids that are in the community anymore. I'm doing this for the kids that are growing up and coming into the community, not for the ones that have left.
Any other board member have something for, oddly, what we're in, which is elected officials update?
I do. I just wanted to remember with the change in election law last November, there is now no reason absentee. Absentee ballot applications are available on the website. You can get them off the michigan.gov at the Secretary of State. You can also come in here and we can help you out and supply one. The mobile clerk's office will be here tomorrow. I think it's from 10. They're going to be here about 8 o'clock, so they'll be open about 10 to 2. Something like that. Things that you can get, marriage license, just in case anyone wants to apply, come here. But you can also, if you need maybe some records from birth, death, marriage records that you've been trying to get a hold of, real estate recordings and documents, something that you might have to do with your notary republic, circuit court documents, take advantage of coming here and doing it this time rather than going to Mount Clemens.
I've got one. Taxes were due on Saturday. We did extend it until Monday at 5 o'clock, so you got a couple extra days plus the overnight drop box. Anything now that is coming to us is now late, so there's going to be a 1% penalty through the end of September. Beginning in October, it goes to 2%, so please, if you haven't paid your taxes, make sure you do it before the end of September. Otherwise, 2% is going to be added onto the total bill.
Can they still pay them here, Mike?
Oh, yeah, you can still pay them here. First State Bank will not accept tax payments anymore. You can do them at the drop box, or you can come here to the counter.
Anyone else? I did want to say one thing, too. It's not a Washington Township issue, but I was driving through Bruce the other day, and I remembered that I missed the open house for Emmett's, which, they used to be in that little small hole in the wall there on the east side of Van Dyke and Bruce Township. You have to go to their showroom. What's that, 33 miles?
33, yep.
I mean, you'll spend money because you'll walk in and you'll say, I want that, I want that, I want that. You have to go there. These guys, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, their display. And, I missed their open house. I was hoping to be there before, but I got distracted, and my wife and I stopped in to see it. You got to go. Go to Emmett's on Van Dyke in Bruce Township. You'll love it. You've got a story on it.
Oh, and just one thing. There were some people, maybe you were there or drove by the cemetery on 29 and Mound.
Sunday.
Campground on Sunday. Sons of the American Revolution and Daughters of the American Revolution joined up, and they did basically it was a ceremony to honor a Revolutionary War veteran. I think there was a good handful of the board members there, and there's some people in the audience there. I have to tell you, it was pretty educational. It was a very nice ceremony. I'd like to thank both organizations as well as our Washington Historical Society for being a part of that and bringing some well-needed education about the Revolutionary War back to the township. So if you get a chance, I think the wreaths are still laid out there. Stop and take a look. There will be, I know the WBRW was there. I think Mitt was also there that day, so look for some stories on cable about those things.
Yeah, it was neat. Neat little history from family members who came to speak, so worth seeing.
Richard Jersey, I believe was his
There were
name.
4 or 5 generations there, I think.
Yeah, it is cool.
Are we doing community or are we doing what?
This is all elected officials. Now we're into community announcements. Anybody know of anything going on?
I got one. I cut this out of the paper, and I actually took this class. It's called Law Enforcement Classes for Senior Citizens. I got in right under the wire. Macomb County Sheriff's Office is accepting registrations by phone for the next law enforcement. It's called the Law Enforcement Academy for Senior Citizens. And it's being held, it's free, and it's being held at the Macomb Intermediate School District on Garfield. It's 4 days, October 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th. And I want to tell you, I sat next to a fellow that it was his 3rd year that he had actually taken it. And it is a wonderful course. They bring in all the sheriff by department. They tell you what the jail looks like, how they cook the food. They bring in the bomb-sniffing dog, and they'll hide some drugs in the room and let the dog loose, and he'll actually run around the room and, by God, don't get up. And it is just a wonderful class. So if you want it, October 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th. It doesn't give me the time that it is, but it's usually in the morning. I think it started at like 10 o'clock, ran for about 2 hours. If you have the opportunity, take it. It is well worth to find out how our law enforcement program works in Macomb County.
Yep, and your Romeo Bulldogs are undefeated in their football season, so they're playing Ike this weekend. If you want to go down to Schweinhart Field, which is across from Utica, go cheer them on there. They're having an awesome season, and then they'll be back home next week, and I believe it's homecoming. So come out there and see all the things that have occurred. Not next homecoming?
October 4th is the Watchdog game.
Okay.
And then homecoming is the last game in
Okay.
October. So
I thought it was an easy opponent, so we'd schedule that one to be, so, or appear to be an easy opponent. They never are.
And while he's on the high school is having an open house for the public on the 26th of September, which is this coming Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Yep, next week. And I don't know the time, so you have to go to the website, but...
6 to 8, I believe.
6 to 8? Okay, 6 to 8. So if you want to see the new high school, you get a tour of it. It's pretty cool on the inside. It's a very class first-grade organization for the kids to be there and for the community. So September 26th.
How many of you have been to the new high school? Raise your hand. Did you like it? It
Yes.
is, don't you wish we would have had it? I mean, I wish my kids would have been able to go like that. You know, it's gorgeous. They did a very, very nice job. It's really nice. Very happy for everybody.
Okay. Let's elect community announcements. Do I have any motion to adjourn?
Motion to go let my dogs out.
Support.
Motion by Kathy, supported by Stan. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate the participation.